bilgisayara kaçayım diyor.
Tamam. Good morning to everybody once again. Sorry for 1 minute of delay. We were just sort of discussing about if we're just sort of recording our progress or not. Now we are slowly starting with our introduction part, first of all, and I would like to thank to everybody who just sort of participated to our workshop. And I was actually wondering if all our speakers are here or not. We will see that in due time. So let me just perhaps start with the introduction part. For that reason, I would like to show you one PowerPoint that I actually prepared yesterday. Yeah. As all we know, we are just here for Pithoi, for the sake of ancient Greek, Roman, and Byzantine Pithoi. That is an international e-conference and virtual conference in honor of Dr. Chris Lightfoot from Cyprus. And I would like to say some technical words about the whole symposium and all the progress of the symposium. We are a group of archaeologists from Izmir, from Western Turkey, in Dokuzeli University. And we're organizing this conference with a colleague from Greece, Miss Zoe Zami from the University of Thessaly at Volos. We are responsible for this conference, and we would like to thank for your participation and support once again. Yeah, I show you where we are, and Zoe is around here, not far from us. She's almost like 500 kilometers west of Izmir in Volos. Yeah, let me just say some words about the technical point of view. Talk times are 2 hours ahead of British summertime. Maybe now 3, because the summertime did not really start in Britain yet. The talks are recorded as now. You can catch up on YouTube later if you haven't time to watch them all right now. Except one participant, all the lectures will be recorded, except the one for Lucille of France. Otherwise, all the lectures will be sort of recorded and then will be displayed in YouTube later. Well, we have some requests. The first one is, please use the latest program and abstract booklet instead of all the former ones, as I have made lots of modification both in the program and abstract booklet. Thank you for this. And also pay attention to mute. One of the most disruptive and embarrassing Zoom talks past is when you forgot to mute yourself in a Zoom meeting. Luckily, there is a simple fix for it. Pay attention to your meeting settings and mute function. When you're not talking, make sure to mute yourself. On the other hand, when it's time for you to speak, take an extra second to check your mute button. We have all made this mistake of speaking before unmuting ourselves, of course, several times, but taking the time to unmute before speaking will save you the embarrassment and hassle of repeating yourself. Yeah, well, also pay attention to 15 minutes restriction for each session. Our standard length of a lecture period is 15 minutes and a 15 minutes question and answer period at the end of each session. We would be thankful if you could respect that. Well, as I said, this is our intention to contribute to the current researches of Pithoi from various parts of Mediterranean and Europe. I hope that this will be a useful meeting for everybody. We say in Turkish and Arabic, inshallah. And let me just also say a couple of words about my friend, about Chris Lightfoot, whom we dedicated this conference. This online conference has been dedicated to Dr. Chris S. Lightfoot, as he has revised our previous Congress book on Lydia and is always giving concrete support to us and to our work since 1993. After receiving a Dr. Phil from Oxford University in the 1970s, Dr. Lightfoot has contributed largely on Roman and Byzantine Anatolia, and all entire his career, he was increasing and spreading knowledge and promoting young archaeologists in their careers through his posts at the British Institute of Archaeology at Ankara, Bilkent University in Ankara, and finally in Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. Our generation is very aware of the fact that Anatolian archaeology would lose its current meaning without his work, especially through his endeavors in Amorium and Phrygia, as well as Byzantine Asia Minor, with his several field campaigns and dozens of papers, and he conveyed Anatolian archaeology from a certain point to a higher level with his continuous work of 45 years between the 1975s and 2020s. Dr. Lightfoot was always interested in the Pithoi and his excavations at Amorium as well, which is now being studied by Professor Erik Iverson in his ongoing publication project of the final report on the Lower City Church of Amorium. As an international Congress organization committee, me, Zoe, and Dr. Maurizio Bora, we wish him a healthy and happy remaining time on Cyprus that he currently lives, and enjoy his life in a well-deserved composure. So now you can ask me questions if you have for the last 4 minutes. Then I will give the microphone to my colleague, to Zoe. We have 4 minutes for your questions, if you have any. And let me just also check the program once again, because I'm a little bit worried about Dimitri van Limbergen and Paulina Komar's paper, which is going to be the next in a couple of minutes. I was wondering if they are here. They seem not to be here, actually. I was wondering if we can... Oh, Paulina is here. Great to see you, Paulina. By the way, good morning, Julie. Welcome. I've seen Paulina right now. Zoe, would you like to say something in 2 minutes as the second organizer of the conference? Zoe?
Yes, actually. I just want to thank in public my dearest friend Ergün for taking the initiative to organize the conference. And it's very good for the academic community to have all these interesting gatherings with all these wonderful presentations. I feel so lucky to collaborate with Professor Laflı. And I just want to wish everyone good luck, and please stick to this PowerPoint that Ergün just presented. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much too. So anybody, any other questions, remarks, or wishes, requests? I don't know. We still have 2 minutes. Maybe you are smarter than us, and then you have a remark that we will need for the rest of the day. Because I've seen that our number is now more or less 30 people, which is great actually. So you're more than welcome to say this. I'm also waiting for Chris Lightfoot. I hope that he's going to be here in a couple of times, so that he will also give some comments about the papers, which is most important actually. Intentionally, I have put 15 minutes of breaks. Why? Because each time we need a coffee break or a tea break. So it's also nice to breathe a little bit to come down. And that's the thing. Herr Bohrer, möchten Sie vielleicht Frau Paulina Kommer annoncieren? Möchten Sie da anfangen? Danke sehr.
Hello. Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. There was probably problem with the internet for a while or something. Yes, maybe I will just share my screen. I hope I am... no, I cannot share my screen because the organizer of the meeting deleted this option. So you should probably...
which is not good. Which is not good.
On.
Well, maybe you should stop sharing your screen.
Yes.
No, the Zoom is telling me that I cannot.
Oh yeah,
The
okay, no problem,
participants cannot, only the organizers.
No problem, Paulina. Could you maybe send me your PowerPoint so that I will just show it? Would you like to do this now?
Yes, or I could show you. Do you like an online presentation? Because I have it online and I have a PDF. Which one do you prefer?
Well, online will be great. Well, why not?
Okay, so I will just give. I will give you the link. Anyone with the link, copy link, and I'm sending it to your email address. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe it's already here. No, not yet. And so don't worry. We still have a couple of minutes for those.
Okay. There are always some technical problems.
Yes, because of me. I forgot this actually yesterday.
I think Zoom is making it automatically that the organizer can share the screen, and then you should unlock it, but then it's looking for it in the settings, and it's always complicated.
Oh yeah. Maybe they want some money.
I send you the link to Canva.
Yeah, don't worry.
It's where
Yes,
the
it's over
presentation
here.
is.
Already here.
So
It's
you should just
already-
put,
yeah, I'll
put
just find it.
present and
Yeah.
share the screen, I think.
No problem. No problem.
Present is in the upper right corner.
Yeah. I'll just. It's just landed to spam, and now I'm just.
Okay.
No
Yeah,
problem.
because it's with the link. No
Oh.
message. Sorry.
Yeah, will be great. So it's great that you have done this presentation already. This is very smart of you. Yeah, there we go. Now I am going to share my screen with you because it's opening more or less. Yes, there we go. And then what else we have? Yes, share screen. Şimdi nereye koyduk onu? Oo. Peki, paylaşım. Now I'm going to share the screen. There you go. Where else? Introduction. Acaba burada şeyde nerede? Based on the... Sure. Is it the one? I hope so.
Oh, yes. This is it.
What else should I do?
Maybe you could try to like there is this cross, like delete the information, and also there is like in the center on the left there is like a small arrow, so you could like delete the like make it full screen or something.
Yeah, I'll do it right away. Is it better right now?
Oh yeah, now it's better.
Good. So just tell me what I should do. I'll do everything.
Okay, so I will be saying when the slides should be moved further. So can we go to the first one?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. So today with Dimitri, we would like to show you that pithoi, or big clay jars, were actually used for winemaking, actually from the Neolithic period to modern times. And now we can observe all over the world that there is, it's very popular to make wine in clay jars, pithoi, or whatever they call them. Can you please next slide? Starting from the left, you can see the Georgian wine made in pithos, which they call kvevri. Then there is Armenian wine made in Karas. Then there is Spanish wine made in Tinaja, and Portuguese wine made in Thalia. Next one. Even places which are very famous for their modern winemaking technology, very modern investments, like California, the Sonoma Valley, they also produce wines in clay jars. They call them amphoras, but actually these are pithoi. They just don't know the proper archaeological terminology. So, but they ferment in clay. Also in the middle here, you can see a Turkish wine made by the Gelveri winery. That's called Hasan Dede. I don't know if you had an opportunity to try it. I didn't, but I will definitely try to do it in the future because, well, I cannot ship into Poland. And also in Poland, which is not really famous for winemaking, there is one winery which imported kvevri, this big clay jar from Georgia, especially to make wines in it. Maybe next slide. In the Caucasus region is very famous for making clay jar wines. In Georgia, wines made in kvevri in 2013 became on a list of UNESCO Intangible Heritage, and the practice became more famous, more research has been done on it. And actually in the Caucasus, but also in the Iberian Peninsula, we can trace this winemaking technology until at least the Roman period, or maybe earlier. And this winemaking technology from the Caucasus actually inspired many Italian or Slovenian wine producers. Like here we see a bottle of wine by Josko Gravner. He is one of the most famous Italian producers of wine in clay jars. Okay, maybe next one. You can make both red and white wines in Pithoi, but the particularity of this method is that you do not separate the must or the grape juice from the remains from the pressing. So both red and white wines are actually made using the maceration. Juice or fermenting must is still in contact with skins, pips, etc. stems, and they usually give the wine its color, but also they have plenty of polyphenols and other chemical compounds which are natural wine preservatives. So thanks to this technique, ancient wines could actually preserve for many, many years, which actually stopped when the barrels started to be used for fermentation and for wine production. Maybe next slide. This one. So here you see a Kvevri and this and like the drawing of the wine, which is in a closed pithos, in a closed clay jar. It's fermenting for a couple of months, still having contact with these grape solids, which add additional taste, but also helps in wine preservation. But the wine is not in contact with all of it, just a small part of polyphenols and other substances is somehow mixed with wine, so the flavor is not as, let's say, the flavor of wines made in clay jars is not as and color is not something that we know from our modern red wines. So we have skin contact wines. Skin contact wines are the result, and they are very similar to modern orange wines. Okay, next one. I've mentioned that in the Caucasus we can trace the origin of this winemaking technology from at least the Neolithic period, and actually it seems that the technology developed more or less in the same way as the domestication of wine. So there were two centers of wine domestication, as the recent paper in Science shows, one in the Caucasus area, another in the Levant. In both places, wine was domesticated around 11th millennium. And in the Caucasus, a couple of thousand years later, we observed the first clay jars for wine fermentation. Maybe next one. There is the so-called Shulaveri Shomutepe culture, which developed on the territory of modern Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia. This is a Neolithic culture, but here we find the first evidence for the use of clay jars for wine fermentation. You see a clay jar on the right, which it's decorated with clusters of grapes, and in the context of these clay jars around, there were plenty of seeds of grapes attested. So we know that they used they knew grapes, they use it, and they probably used it for wine production. Next one. From the like what before? Okay, from the territory of Armenia, we know the first wine press, which was found in the Areni cave, dated to the 4th, 5th millennium BC, also the first leather shoe. However, this is the entrance to the Areni cave. Maybe next slide. And this is, oh, sorry. And this is the winery. So inside the cave, there are 20 small pressing basins and fermentation jars. There were plenty of grape seeds, skins, like remains of grape pressing around, and also some organic residue analysis indicate that inside the vessels and inside these presses or basins, because obviously these were not like presses, mechanical presses, just people were pressing grapes using their feet. In both objects, there malvidin was found. Malvidin is a chemical compound that is present in grape skins, so it somehow confirms that the wine was produced in the Areni cave. So the first known winery. Another one, please. Also the same area that was first inhabited by people belonging to the Shulaveri culture, and where the Areni cave is located was in the 4th millennium. During the 4th millennium, inhabited by the so-called Kuro-Araxes culture. And from this culture, we have plenty of evidence for the use of big clay jars for wine fermentation, for wine production. And there are plenty of vessels like this small vessel, which has this like kind of bird shape that probably served for drinking, because inside traces of tartaric acid confirm that the traces of tartaric acid confirm that wine was inside these small drinking vessels. Another one, please. But the greatest development of wine production in clay jars comes from the so-called Urartu culture, so the Iron Age culture in the eastern Anatolia. Here you can see the bronze, the piece of bronze, which was probably a kind of decoration of something, when where pithos is transported on a cart. Another one. But in most of important settlements or fortresses, I don't know why the picture is so blurred, it shouldn't look like this, but in most of important fortresses of the Urartu culture, we find plenty of clay jars, these pithoi, which served for wine production. In Karmir Blur, or Teishebani, as it was called probably in the Urartian times. So almost 400 liters of wine might have been produced. Another one. There are also cuneiform inscriptions on the pithoi, which indicate the volume of a pithos. And also these pithoi are decorated with this kind of rope-like decoration. They are buried in the ground until their shoulders, and they indicate a large-scale wine production. Also, one of these pithoi is present in the Erebuni, in a museum, a very similar type. Another site, Argishti Kinili, the fortress of the king Argishti III, had also several dozens of pithoi, which in total had the capacity of 160 liters, 160,000 liters. Next one. Garibintepe, another place where pithoi, the same shape, the same decoration, the same technique of burying in the ground up to their shoulders. Another one. And here excavations of these pithoi, which show us the scale of them. I haven't found any exact measurements of these pithoi. However, I would say that they were like 1.5, 2 meters tall. So the capacity of one pithos was really amazing. Another one. And plenty of these fortresses are situated around the Van lake. Here you also see the diameter of this pithos. So definitely we can be certain that in the Urartu culture, wine was produced on a mass scale, and that there was like a common use of pithoi for this purpose. Another one. More or less in the same time, or at the end of the existence of the Urartu culture, we find the earliest pithoi that can be associated with winemaking in the Aegean. Actually, the earliest are from the Myrtos site in Crete, from the Bronze Age still, but in the, let's say, the classical Greek culture, the earliest so far known evidence, or at least known to us, is Karaburnaki site. dated to the 600-500 BC, and there was like a small domestic structure with up to 10 pithoi, which contained inside burnt seeds from grain and grapes, which shows that this pithoi they had they were multi-purpose, so they were for grain storage, but also for other, but also for wine and making and other purposes. Next one. Here we can observe the development of the pithoi, the change of their shapes, and also where how more or less the first examples are dated. So the earliest evidence from the Caucasus, the 4th century, then Western Anatolia, the 3rd century, then Greece, second half of the 2nd century, Sicily, Italy, millennium, second millennium before Christ, and the western end of Europe, Spain, France, it will be the 1st millennium before Christ. Next one. But what the use of pithoi for winemaking are the best known to us from the Roman period. So maybe now I will show you some evidence from the Roman age. Next one. This like the connection between the East and West is the Herodium, so the Herod's winery, where pithoi buried in the ground up to their almost necks with grape pips inside have been found. And now some chemical analyses are being done regarding the biomarkers for wine in these pithoi or dolia, how the Romans called them. Next one. In Greece, there is a very famous villa of the Roman period, the villa of Epidauros, unfortunately now below the waters of the sea, which also contained several hundred pithoi, which indicate the large-scale wine production. They are dated to the 2nd, 4th century, probably. Next one, Villa Pisanella. Plenty of villas like this Ville Rustiche you can find them in Campania, in the area of Pompeii, Naples, Herculanum. This one is in Boscorale. It had 72 pithoi and other winemaking facilities. So it was a rural villa, which was definitely served for winemaking. Winemaking according to the method described by Cato, Varro, Columella, and other agriculturists. Next one. Slightly smaller Villa Regina di Boscoreale. Here we can also see the lids of this pithoi, which preserved quite well. The first wine in the pithoi fermented when they were open, but when fermentation finished and all the carbon dioxide was emitted, they were closed so that the oxygen couldn't enter into the wine. And they were kept for a couple of months like this. Here, Villa Regina was small scale, rather wine production, rather for the domestic use, while Villa Pisanella definitely larger scale, judging from the number of pithoi. Next one. In Italy, this production of wines in pithoi or in dolia was very, very popular. They differed from what we could see in the East because the Eastern pithoi, like from the Urartu culture, they were more like egg-shaped. Here we have a more globular shape, and they are buried in the ground very deep up to their rim or neck, while the others were buried in the ground up to 2/3. So this is a map, a preliminary map made by Dimitri, where these pithoi for winemaking were found, or were Ville Rustiche with the so-called Sella Vinaria places for wine fermentation and storage were attested. Next one. What is even more interesting is that in Gallia Narbonensis and also in Spain, we find hundreds of pithoi or hundreds of dolia in these ville rustiche, which indicates a large-scale, massive wine production for export, probably, most probably for export. These dolia, however, they have slightly different shapes, so egg-shaped and just less deeply buried in the ground than in Italy. Next one. In Spain, we have these dolia buried in the ground, but also smaller vessels like these, also with handles. They are more cylindrical, and they are called orcai, and they are freestanding. So not always these pithoi for winemaking have to be buried in the ground. This is something typical of Spain. Next. And in the West, actually, the evidence for winemaking in clay jars disappears. However, in the East, we can still see this evidence. Very often, these clay jars for winemaking are associated with churches, like here at the Paliambela in Greece, 5th, 6th century AD, church with pressing facilities in the form of 2 waterproof basins connected with a pipe, and 7 pithoi, not big, just with a diameter around 1 meter, at least 4 buried in the ground, and a mosaic which also indicates that wine was produced. There is a cantharos inside, and the mosaic is decorated with vine leaves. Another one. Another slide, please. And there is plenty of evidence, even like iconographic, like here from the Hora Church in Constantinople from the 14th century, that these vessels were still in use and they were associated with winemaking. Here we have the miracle in Cana, where Jesus is like turning water into wine, and the wine is kept in big clay jars, in big pithoi, and this 14th century mosaic means that they must have been also in use archaeologically, even if we do not have any archaeological examples, because if they had not been used, people wouldn't be able to understand this mosaic. So these pithoi must have been common in that period also. Next one. So in the western part of the Mediterranean, pithoi disappeared from the record around the 4th century AD, but it appears that the Spanish and Portuguese people, they took the pithoi to the New World. They took this idea of fermenting wine in pithoi to the New World. We have the 17th century in the Moquegua Valley in Peru, 17th century winery, precisely using pithoi, very similar to the Urartu culture, to the Gallic, Spanish, and Roman dolia. And in the Itata Valley in Chile, this technique is still used for wine making. So it survived for so many centuries there. Next one. In the Caucasus, this technique, as I mentioned, is very, very common. So, and we can trace it from the Neolithic through this modern period until nowadays. But the funny thing is that there are no potters who know how to make this pithoi. It is probably associated with the fact that after the conquest by the Soviet Union, people in Armenia, they stopped making wine. They started to make brandy, cognac, and other things for export to Russia, and this technique started to become forgotten. However, many people still have these big pithoi, they call them karas, in their cellars, and sometimes they make wine in them for special occasions. The wine can be kept for many years. However, when the pithos or karas is open, it should be consumed within 2 weeks. Next one. And also from Georgia, there is not only archaeological evidence, but also iconographic evidence, like paintings of Niko Piroshmani, the most famous Georgian painter. So it's the beginning of the 20th century. They are still making wine which ferment in pithoi. Next one. Oh. Okay, so there was just a picture of big clay jars being transported on a donkey or a horse in Murcia in Spain. So probably in the western part, in very isolated areas, the practice preserved. Next one. You cannot see a map here. I don't know what happened with the presentation. Sometimes when there is a small break in the internet connection, this might happen. However, the map shows that in the also isolated places like the Caucasus, the Greek island Icaria, the Alentejo Valley in Portugal, and in Spain, in one small village in Madrid, this tradition is still popular and people are still making wine using Pithoi. Next one. If someone is more wants to know more about winemaking in Pithoi, in big clay jars, we invite you for our session we organize with Dimitri van Limbergen at the European Association of Archaeologists Conference, which will take place at the end of August this year in Rome. Thank you very much. Sorry if I was speaking too long there, but I don't know if it was me or these were the technical problems with presentation that made it longer.
Bonjour.
Ergün,
Je voudrais dire quelque chose. Alors, je voudrais dire que dans la région de Venezia et Istria, à la place de Pithoi, on utilisait des tonneaux en bois. Nous avons les preuves archéologiques et aussi iconographiques. C'est là, c'était de la 1er siècle après Jésus-Christ jusqu'au 3e.
Yes, thank you very much. I know it, and actually this is the subject Dimitri is planning to investigate more, like the use of barrels and its influence on the wine taste, because we see that something changed in winemaking technology and in the taste, and he's particularly interested in this Adriatic region. So I'm sure he will love to discuss this issue with you. So thank you for this information.
Thank you.
Monsieur Boara, est-ce qu'il y a quelqu'un qui a travaillé sur la pithos d'Aquileia pour la typologie ou bien pour la production?
Aquileia, il y a seulement un pithos et je ne connais pas d'autres.
Parce que ça n'existait pas une publication spécifique sur la production, bien sur la typologie et chronologie de Troie et de Pithoi ou bien d'Olia à Aquileia.
D'Olia, c'est une autre chose, non, naturellement. Ils sont plus petits, mais je n'ai jamais vu dans les villes rustiques, c'est l'appareil. Je crois que c'est.
Oui, c'est-à-dire, alors, Dolia et les Pithoi existaient à la même tombe à Aquileia, ou bien il y a de sélection?
Oui.
Merci. Est-ce que voulez-vous annoncer de discussion pour Paula, Monsieur Boara? Est-ce que voulez-vous annoncer la discussion, le parti de discussion pour Pauline? Möchten Sie also vielleicht die Diskussionsteil für Paula annoncieren?
Yeah.
Now we would like to begin with the discussion for the paper of Dimitri van Limbergen and Paulina Kumar. Do we have any questions?
Quelques questions?
Est-ce qu'il y a une question?
I saw someone mentioned we have evidence in Odyssey for the use of Pithoi for winemaking. Yeah, I remember there was something about the opening of a wine vessel, like pithos, but I don't remember who came back from the battle. at that moment. So if you can give me like a reference to this, that would be great.
Yes. Yes, Paulina, I'm particularly thankful to you for your presentation at the beginning of your presentation, that you presented all the material in such a through way so that everybody can get an idea about when the pithos tradition has been started and the progress of through the countries, through the landscapes from Urar to Spain. So that was very useful. Thank you very much. That was a really nice introductory lecture, actually, at the beginning of your lecture. That was very useful also for my students who are actually watching you right now in their classes. So thank you for this. That was very kind.
Thank you very much.
Bu ara, möchten Sie jetzt mal diese Sektion schließen? Möchten Sie etwas sagen?
Alors, nous ferons pas une pause. On va commencer.
Oui, d'accord. We will have a break until 12:30, Mr. Bora. Yes, 12:30, I think.
Alors, je suis très reconnaissant à mes collègues pour leur intervention précédente. Les études à cette échelle sont extrêmement importantes. Passons maintenant à la période gréco-romaine. Je demande à Alessandro Solca de parler, s'il vous plaît, please.
Oui, bonjour. Hello. Thank you very much. Das war wirklich eine sehr schöne Präsentation, so danke vielmals. Now just a few remarks. The first one is, I think that even if winemaking may have had in the very beginning two origins, so to call into the Caucasian area and something more related to Syro-Levantine, well, basically, I think there is a need of a much more detailed comparative study. Why? Because we do know that winemaking has been a process which transferred from different cultures from one another. I would just take one example I'm going to show in my presentation, which is the name of vineyard and winemaking in Egyptian. We do know that in Egyptian, there was no wine being indigene in the country until other cultures came in and brought this wine until Egypt. Yes, I would show, by the way, why we have this name. Anyway, the point is, when Professor Maurizio Bora mentioned the aspects of, so to say, wood making wine, I mean, in wood content vases and so on and so forth. It's very important because actually I think that both methods were used simply for different purposes. Yes, that's one thing. Now regarding Urartu, we could speak a lot about it because I am working on an interesting article on gardening and aspects of vegetation in Urartu. So we can speak about the wine gardening in Urartu. There's a lot to be said. But what is sure is that for me, the main importance of your presentation is actually the fact that we need all as different specialists to focus our different expertise and to work together. Because if we study Levantine, this doesn't go without studying Crete. And by the way, I will insist on Crete in my presentation. If we study Crete, it doesn't go without studying Southern Sicily. That's one point. Second point is about Spain and Portugal. It's a country I love very much, Portugal, and especially the so-called Tartessos civilization. Well, actually, we do know that Tartessos culture was in contact with Phoenicia very long ago, about 10th century AD. Therefore, regarding the winemaking, it's still a question who brought it to Portugal first. Yes, and there is a lot to be said, and that's why I showed a very interesting pithos picture of the Tartessos culture meanwhile. Finally, about the Greek Odyssey, well, it's just a question of, so to speak, memory, but it's a very interesting passage. And the passage explains that it's the famous passage in which Odyssey meets the Cyclops. yes, and he's offered wine by the Cyclops. It's very interesting because, of course, people try to say that Cyclops are not civilized, which is wrong. Les Cyclopes sont très civilisés, n'est-ce pas? But the point is, Odyssey is actually trying to see if his host is correct. And so that's the passage. He says that he stayed by the huge door stone, he sat in place, and he began to milk the ewes and goats in order. But then he came back to two men which were with Ulysses and began, unfortunately, to eat them. And then he comes to Ulysses, and Ulysses present him an ivy wood bowl full of dark wine. You see, and here we understand three things. First of all, that drink vessels could be made of wood, yes. Second, that these different vessels had very different purposes. Well, that's all I have to say. Especially I hear many phones around, so I don't want to disturb with over sounds, but that were the remarks I wanted to share with well, the community. Thank you.
Bien. Alors, avez-vous des questions sur cet argument, sur cette relation?
By the way, that was very useful what Alexander said. It was a little bit long, but it was useful. I'm sure Paulina will sort of use it, right? For your own thing, Paulina,
Yes,
I guess.
of course. Thank you very much.
It seems there is no more question or no more remarks, except I am reading something here. Dr. Boara, am I allowed to read it? Anna has written, if present examples are also of interest, Bernard Oat, winemaker from Austria, is known for his wine made in Georgian amphorae, as I think. Many thanks for your interesting presentation, Ambassador from Austria. This is what Anna Paula says. I don't know if she's still with us or not. Anna Paula, bist du da? Ich glaube, die ist noch da. So this is an important remark. And Alexander has written a long remark again, which is very useful too. I'm going to read it later. So should we maybe close the session and make a little bit break? What do you think, Mr. Bora? Because timely... Yes, we should have a break right now. Herr Bohrer, sollen wir jetzt mal eine kleine Pause machen? Was meinen Sie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it's the break time. So see you in 12:30 in 11 minutes. Thank you very much, Paulina, again. That was a great presentation.
Thank you very much. See you after
Thank you.
the
See you.
break.
Yes.
Yes. So you can begin with your lecture, actually.
Well, okay, fine.
Yep.
So, as it said in the title, we will speak about Anatolian and Minoan philological observations on the Pithoi and storage goods in linear A tablets. For those interested, there are all my details on the first slide. Then, can we move the next slide? Or not? No, we cannot? Move to the next slide?
This is the next slide, no?
No, yes, yes, thank you. So Pithoi now in a lexicological and archaeological context. So in our opinion, early Bronze Age Proto-Greek, Aegean, and Egyptian relate wares comparable to Cretan Pithoi, among the most important and exquisite and vital use vases devoted to transportation and safekeeping of goods, heritage from Minoan civilization, deserve to be much more studied in a comparative manner. And here are the main reasons. Well, first of all, you can see the beauty of such Pithoi, by the way, quite similar to the one we saw with Urartu, yes. And this is a beautiful example. Oh, yes, sorry, thank you. Coming from Knossos, yes. And the second one you showed with the next slide, yes, is coming from Malia, of course, one of my favorite sites. And I just gave the credentials to persons who did this very, very beautiful photograph. And you can see, by the way, that each pithos has its own iconography. Next slide, please. Yes. Now, Phaistos, of course, was in Bronze Age by Ito. Yes, and here we have an example of the kind of pithos we can expect, yes, inside of the granaries of Phaistos. We can go to the next slide, please. Now, the goals of our Minoan-related studies. Well, first, collective evidence on logographic science related to food and stored goods in different vases, and how we can classify them with lexical and logical references. Second, to check the linear A and B Cretan tablets to try to connect the dots. In other words, to transcribe, yes, the dialect and Minoan Luvian Proto-Greek language and check the words which we can find later in Classical Greek, and some of them actually can be found and traced also in Egypt. Finally, we hope that this presentation will allow more specialists on linear A and B and Anatolian languages to work together, because obviously the subject, the main subject of this conference, yes, about the Pithoi in all Mediterranean, is about cross-maritime connections in the ancient Mediterranean, Red Sea, and Cypriot areas. And therefore, it's important to have the same approach, yes, for these different maritime contacts. Okay, next slide, please. Well, just a few memories I wanted to share. The first time in which I remember visiting Crete. I was very young at that time. I was about 17. I'm still young, thank God. The point was, I remember how beautiful it was to discover this pithoi completely untouched and completely intact, just under the ground, yes? And as if nothing had changed for 2000 years, yes? And this is maybe one of the reasons why I decided to invest myself into deciphering Minoan scripts. The second thing is that I remember discovering the beautiful palace of Katozakos, yes? And I felt exactly like Flinders Petrie when he began working to Egyptian early dynastic period. And well, personal memories aside, we hope that in the future, there will be more cooperation between inland and underwater archaeology, because regarding Crete, this is essential. We know that Crete has used so much seasides, but there is not so much effort put into underwater archaeology. And this is sad about Pithoi, because obviously most of Pithoi must be also by the seaside. Last but not all, very important, we would like to thank my wonderful beloved wife for her wisdom and supportive kindness with our excellent talks on ancient Greece and Crete. And finally, Professor Ergün Laflı for his kind invitation to the colloquium and a fruitful exchange with new colleagues and friends. Now, next slide, please. Just with a few slides, yes. We want to present shortly Pithoi and related words in linear A. Of course, this goes with an important methodological effort, especially on logograms and aspects of classifications of word signs inside of the item category search. Next slide, please. So about pithos, yes, we know in ancient Greek obviously this word, but is it a connection also with Minoan and Luvian? Well, I would like to show, even if the screen is small, yes, but we know and we found the word for pithoi. It's written here in the Hagia Triada tablet number 6, line 2 to 3, pitaya. And this pitaya is actually pithoi, and in that case, keeping fruits, because kappa is karpa and datara is of course dates. So this pithoi is not used for wine, it's used for keeping fruits, possibly for jam or possibly for over juicy drinks, but clearly pitaya is the word for pithoi. And this is our own discovery. There are plenty of words I can describe, but that would be another lecture about the word which are written here, but clearly we do find half of the word as future Greek, including kappa, scarpa, kappa k is and karpa, yes, and we can find also other words such as daki as dakos, yes, dakos, yes. So we know that half of this Minoan material is actually Greek, or Proto-Greek to be more precise. Next slide, please. So now that we know that Pithoi, Pitaya exists in Minoan, I decided to go further. And there is this famous word pitakase. Well, actually, it's clearly pistakos. And interestingly, you can see the logogram of granus, grains of pistak. And I made my search, and we can use oil of pistachio. And interestingly, Greeks still use pistachio oil and paste into their cooking. So it's not a surprise, yes? And therefore, this tablet of Hagia Triada 21 testifies of the fact that Minoan used pistachio in their cooking and possibly kept them into smaller jars than Pithoi, but still used it in order to produce oil and a paste jam. Next one, please. This is an interesting element, which is the Egyptological point of view on Crete, which means that we have Pitaya in Minoan, but we have also the vase, oval vase shape bit. Well, this bit in Egyptian is clearly Pitaya in Minoan. But most important, you can see the small presentation. I'm just sad because I tried to find the original drawings of this monument, and I did not find them yet, but I will keep it because as Egyptologist, I can find anything. The point is, we can see from these drawings that these drawings are clearly Pithoi jars from Crete. There is no mistake about this. So clearly, this is a very important proof, yes, that Pithoi were imported from Crete to Egypt, but Egyptians use Pithoi for winemaking. This is quite important, and so on. By the way, these are my own findings again. Well, next slide, please. Now, about methodological between logogram and reality. This is well, I don't know exactly how to call it, but I call it a double pithos with connected ear jugs, yes? And the point is, if you see this beautiful artifact, which has been found in Cudonia, and then please, next slide. Yes, well, I apologize because that's the problem with Minoan text. There is no clear, complete, enhanced image for tablets. This is something I hope that will be done in the future. Anyway, if you check the title of HT26, you will see that the logogram 406 of the vase has two connected double ear jugs. So we know that this vase, 406 vase, is exactly the one you saw on the picture of Cudonia. We can do for the next slide, yes. Now, this is another topic. It's very interesting also, but I don't have time for today, but it's to show that each pithos is not only about keeping goods, it's also about iconography and symbolic. So we have different pithos with stars, sky elements, nature, decoration, and this is important. This shows that Minoan culture had a lot to offer on early Aegean cosmology. Please, next slide. But for those interested, the ResearchGate mention explains all the necessary reference. Now, honey making, this is a topic which I like very much. And we know that in Luwian we have Madu and Medu, and quite clearly the goddess Malitia of Hittite gave her honey aspects of Melissa in Crete. So clearly Melissa is actually Anatolian, and clearly also the Cretan aspects of honey making are actually coming to this. There's only one sad news for the moment. I did not find the honey word in linear A for the moment, but I'm sure I will find it. Anyway, the point is we know with this that we have a basis to go further. Next slide, please. Now, the Camares, yes, and these incredibly pristine so-called Barbertine jugs, And why I show this is because we spoke of Pithoi, but actually we have plenty of different clay jars and jugs, and all of them are very important. This is one example with the Camarès, a beautiful example kept in Germany, Bitteschön in Kassel, yeah, Schloss Wilhelmshöhe collection. Of course, we would not investigate who exactly gave that, coming from Greek antiquities, because there would be a small question, yes, about who did that. Anyway, the point is, it's important. Why? Because that shows that Crete exploited very different vessels. Next slide, please. Now, the connections which I want to insist on is the fact that we have important drinking vessels with early rock centuries. And Camarès is a very good proof. Camarès was a very important Minoan sacred shrine. Unfortunately, not so much excavated as it should have been, but clearly those vessels of Camarès jugs vessels were used for specific cleansing rituals. And so here is the connection in Crete, which means that vessels, keeping of goods, is actually also a safekeeping with gods, so that they would be pleased, so that they would be happy, and that they could keep us the extended protection. And the shrine is the symbol of this protection in the rock mountains. Next slide, please. Kritanos. Another word very interesting in also Agatriada number 2 with Kiretana. And this is sorry. This, this is the good example that all lexicologists, such as Hesychius, which is one of our favorite old writers about lexicology, they kept for us very important aspects. And Kritanos is actually termint. And if we speak of terebentin, then we know that Crete used also important condiments in order to use perfume and other specific delicacies. And this is the demonstration that Kiritana is actually Cretanas, and most important, that this was used in ancient Crete. By the way, with another aspect, the iconography, which I hope to do, which means that we have a few frescoes. And well, in my case, I found already for Crocus, but it's another aspect. The point is, we can definitely specify those things. Next slide, please. Cool. Now, another example, we have in ancient Egyptian the word pega, pega. Yes, you can see that the hieroglyph of bowl, yes, is very precise. Yes, it's a kind of trapezoidal shape. Well, guess what? In Knossos ZC6, we have a conical cup, and this conical cup has a linear A inscription on it, and twice we have the word Paku. Well, Paku is clearly Pega, clearly. So here we have, again, a very interesting element that Minoan Paku was imported in Egypt, and in Egypt it was heard as Pega, Paka, Paku. That's one thing. And secondly, that we can testify the lexical aspects of Minoan. Yes, this is the next example with pass, passa, and you have a word also in key H, yes, 16, e passaya. Well, the passaya is clearly pass, this water pot. This is interesting because here you can see we have a grain, so we have a small vessel which can be used for water, but also can be used for grains. Yes, so this is the example here. Next slide, please. Next slide, yes. Now, wine, yes, that was the topic of previous presentation. Well, in Egyptian, we have the word kamu for vineyard, orchard, yes? And we have kamu as vintner, the one who makes wine. Well, interestingly, in Aketriada 20, we have the word kumayu, and clearly, kumayu is Camus, the winemaker. The most important, you can see on this tablet of HT20, Parosu, and Parosu is Paros. So we have winemaking from Paris coming to Crete, yes, imported, and written down in the tablet to be sure that no one will forget to give back to Paris the specific elements of good. And by the way, that allows us to understand that the vineyards in ancient Egypt came from actually Aegean society. Last slide, please. So thank you very much for your attention. We hope this third presentation, which unfortunately had some difficulties with technology, shed some light and valuable insights on neoanalytic psychology, and that this would be more knowledge. Thank you for your attention, and I hope we will discuss further. Thank you.
Thank you too, dear Alexandra, for this.
So should we start with Bianca? Because Bianca sounds to be very ready for the lecture.
Okay, let me just announce the title of her presentation.
That would be great. Thank you very much.
Yes, yes, yes. It is Pithoi for domestic storage and Pompeioupolis in northern Turkey. Bianca, we're ready for you.
Yes. How can I share my screen? Or should I
There's the
send?
green button, share screen down below.
Yes, but it says that the host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, how about now?
He should, yeah, you should sort of operate it right now. This shouldn't be a problem because I have given you a mutual administration role. Could you maybe try once again?
Yes.
Bianca?
Yes.
Yeah?
Perfect. Yes.
Great, great, great.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I think it's a full screen now. It's do you see it?
Yes, 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 we can, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So today I'm going to present you some small pithoi used for domestic storage in Pompeioupolis. Pompeioupolis is located in 1 kilometer north of Taşkapıru, 40 kilometers northwest of Kastamonu, and 140 kilometers southwest of Sinop on the so-called Zimbili Tepe, at the west bank of the Amnias river, known today as Gökçe River. It was established in 65 by Gnaeus Pompeius Magnus, following his triumph over Mithridates VI. The archaeological excavations have revealed a continuous habitation from the middle of the 1st century BC to the 13th century AD, a testament of its enduring historical legacy. So Pompeioupolis was not only mentioned by several ancient authors, including Strabo, Ptolemy, and Hierocles, but also earned the title of the metropolis of Paphlagonia in the 2nd century. Its strategic location, recorded in the Pöttinger table, as a crucial stopover between Gangra and Sinop on the Black Sea coast, further amplifies its historical significance, making it a key player in the ancient world. The archaeological investigation started in 2006 with a mixed team of Turkish, German, Italian, and French specialists. The meticulous process of geophysical prospection and excavations have allowed them to discover and document the public and functional structures of the Roman city. Among these are the Therme, the theater, the so-called villa, all showing a dense habitation. Shifting our focus to pottery, my professor Andrei Opaiț and I began studying the quartzware in 2014. A significant quantity from all functional categories was observed. This pottery, a mix of local production and imports from a wide area, offers valuable insights into the city's trade and cultural connections. The pottery types, styles, and origins discovered in Pompeioupolis reflect a rich tapestry of influences that shaped the city's material culture. The imports primarily originated from Aegean, the Pontic region, and Gaza, while specific shapes and paintings on the drinking vessels, kitchenwares, or storage vessels distinguish the local production. Turning our attention to pithoi, they are locally crafted and estimated to date from the 3rd to the 7th century. And their unique features allows us to trace the typology parallel to the production center. As a result of pathological analysis and typology, we have identified two production centers. First is characterized by this one, by the yellowish ophiolitic and quartzific fabric, but also a few calcareous rocks and mica. The second one is the brownish metamorphic fabric containing philitic rocks, fragments, quartz, and iron oxides. Both of them dating, as I said, from the 3rd to the 7th century. Also, these workshops has not yet to be discovered. The results of the pathological analysis indicates a possible local production. The raw materials for the first fabric with ophiolitic inclusions are supposed to come from the eastern and northern zone, large ophiolitic outcrops being located on both banks of the Göç River. For the second fabric, consisting in the lack of the ophiolitic inclusions, the source of the raw materials should be located most probably to the south or southwest of the site. The first type to discuss, the ophiolitic fabric, so manufactured in the first workshop. The vessel's shape is characterized by a vertical rim and flange below 2 centimeters, a handle flat in profile, or a small grip with a hole in the center may be attached to this flange. Its role is functional, perhaps for better coverage with a textile material. This shape is made only from this fabric, but slight morphological differences may be noticed, including indicating multiple potters involved in the manufacturing process. Another detail worth mentioning is the surface treatment. An incised decoration, a waving line, and dots characterize this workshop. The rim diameters vary from 20 to 40. However, larger pithoi with 45 to 60 centimeters in diameters were discovered also. The bases also vary. The smaller ones belong to the larger pithoi, while the larger bases belong to the small-sized storage vessels. The 3/4 preserved pithos from this center, this one, has a capacity for the preserved part of about 160 liters and a rim diameter of about 35 centimeters. Analogies for this type in shape and dating were found in Greek environments such as Samos and Chios. The pithoi from Chios are considered to be imported as they have a highly micaceous pink buff clay. They also have decoration under the flange with straight and waving lines or dots. However, it is difficult to accept the import of such large vessels in a remote region. The type produced by the second workshop, the metamorphic fabric, was also found in large quantities. They are characterized by a rectangular or triangular rim. These two types have the flange in common, with the mention that they have only handles, not a grip. Slight morphological differences may also be noticed in this case, which is the same situation for multiple potters. At the same time, the center has a new shape and applies paint to some of its products. Red and white, straight or wavy lines were noticed, but they do not exclude the incised wavy lines or dots. The diameters of the upper parts vary from 20 to 35 centimeters, bases with diameters of about 15 to 20 centimeters, and its capacity is about 125 liters. No other larger variants were discovered. They also find analogies in Samos. Of course, some other shapes were manufactured along the two most predominant shapes of the small-sized storage vessels. We can also distinguish the workshops according to their fabric. Even if the primary shape is different, the same decoration was noticed. Here we can see some other decorated pithoi with different combinations already mentioned. with incised lines, dots, but also with white and red paintings. Decorating small and medium-sized storage vessels is common in Pompeiopolis and other regions, such as those from the lower Danube area I studied. Thanks to their shapes, the morphology of the rims and bases, they were decorated and could be placed in the visible places of the house as a display of wealth. Some other observations made on the fragments consist of details regarding their manufacturing techniques. It was often mentioned in the ethnographical studies and demonstrated by archaeology that they were made on sections. We also had the chance to discover the joining lines between these fragments and understand the exterior lines role on the body vessels. Their role was not only decorative, they hide and reinforce the areas of these joining parts. In the case of the fragment for the right, the potter missed that spot and the crack occurred. Regarding the upper parts, the exterior part of the rim was formed from a different clay coil, which was added at the end of the process. The lower parts of these vessels show some slight differences. Some are flat with about 20 centimeters and belong to the smaller storage pithoi, while the others may be discoidal, matching to the ones with large capacities. The pithoi with a flat base were placed above the ground. They could be easily moved, while the others were embedded in the ground and left in the spot for long periods, sometimes sold together with the house as an instrumentum domesticum. Regarding the capacities of the storage vessels from Pompeiopolis, we have some complete vessels that allowed us to do some mathematical calculations. According to the results, we divided them into three categories: small, medium, and large. On all of them, the same manufacturing techniques are noticed. The small ones of interest today have capacities of around 120-140 liters. If you are asking about the larger ones, they have already been published in Recătarie Acta in 2018 and could reach 900 liters. The use of storage vessels is usually open to debate, mainly when they are not connected with a production area such as vineyards or wineries. Based on archaeological and archaeobotanical discoveries, we proposed wine and cereals as the content of these storage vessels. We have ruled out storing olive oil because of the area's climatic conditions. At the same time, many candlesticks with animal fat were discovered, and their large number demonstrates that the city lacked olive oil production and had a low supply of this commodity. Therefore, the pithoi are suited to preserve both commodities, wine and cereals, offering low temperature and a lack of oxygen, the best conditions for extended storage. The content was saved from oxygen or rodents to the clay lids made from the same clay mix as the vessels. The evidence that allows us to propose the storage of wine is the pitch discovered on the body shirts from the pithoi. At the same time, wine production is confirmed by the locally made drinking vessels that preserve the same traces, by the discoveries of grape pip, and of the inscriptions with the representations of billhooks. As for the cereals, some wheat and barley seeds were discovered in one of the pithoi. At the same time, the storage of cereals ground as flour was made into smaller storage pots. It is already well known that flour degrades quickly and is better ground frequently. An interesting situation is provided by the analysis made by our colleague paleontologist. He found in one pithos cereal and grape content with 7 wheats, 4 barley grains, and 11 grape pips. Their presence in a large number and use over an extended period helped us also notice their reuse as a water collection in which some pipes came through. Most small and medium-sized storage vessels were discovered in the domus in the late Roman period, sometimes singular or concentrated as 4 to 5. As mentioned, their capacities did not exceed 200 liters, which makes them suitable for household storage. We may propose that 4 to 5 members of one family could store a suitable quantity of products for winter consumption in 4 to 5 pithoi. To conclude, Pompeiopolis had a rich production of pithoi with 2 different workshops distinguished by fabric, shape, and decoration. Many pithoi were discovered fragmentary or complete in all excavated contexts. More than 600 diagnostic fragments, such as rims and bases, were discovered. An accurate statistic still has to be made, but the first workshop produces a more significant number of pithoi. Their analysis gave us insights into the production techniques, capacities, and use. It is also important to mention that not all the pithoi were small and medium, but the majority were large. However, a quarter of them were of smaller dimensions, which give us clues concerning cities' economy. This means that besides the large storage facilities dedicated to state storage for collecting taxes, the household economy was also essential, and the civil population kept its provisions inside their houses in these mobile pithoi, ready to preserve any products. The first type and production center crafted pithoi with a range of capacities. These vessels, with their rims varying from 20 to 60 centimeters, were versatile and played a significant role in the area's economy. On the other hand, the second workshop produced only medium-sized pithoi during the 3rd and 7th centuries AD. Their morphology still needs to be studied. However, the size of the pithoi demonstrates the presence of experienced potters in Pompeiopolis. Crafting pithoi was time and cost-consuming, but the potter also needed to know about their fabrication, the proper mix of clay with the inclusions, the period for drying, and the proper temperature in the kiln. A more significant concentration of the small and medium ones allow us to acknowledge their household role. They all come from the residential area. Their flat base offers them stability, and they store the proper quantity of products for families' need. The area's economic potential is demonstrated by its continuous use until 13th century AD, when the settlement was destroyed. Thanks to the macroscopic observations and paleontology, we can confirm its use in storing wine and cereals. Thank you.
Thank you, Du, for this wonderful presentation. I think we do have time for 1 or 2 quick, please, questions, and then we can move on to our break. So if you want to ask anything, please go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
Hi, so I have a question regarding these pithoi in Amatus and in Amatus and in Pompeiopolis. Is there like any evidence that they were somehow related to wine pressing facilities, or nothing like this has been found around the site?
In Pompeiopolis, we haven't found in the site, but maybe in the future we can discover, because we have a lot of drinking vessels, local production of table amphoras, and they may be connected. There has to be wine making facilities.
Okay, thank you. And what about Amatus?
In Amatus, we don't have any installations for the productions of wine or olive oil. Okay. We have only the pithoi, but we don't have the installation for the productions.
Because there are plenty of them, yeah? Actually, how many?
Sorry?
There are how many pithoi?
Between 80 and 100.
Okay.
For the classical period, but I didn't present the pithoi from the archaic period.
Ah, so there are also older. Okay, so I will. And there are
very few pithoi for the archaic period.
Okay, thank you. And are there publications from Amatus and Pompeiopolis of pithoi and other things, or not?
Not
in
yet.
Pompeiopolis, we have an article in Secretary Acta in 2018, together with Professor Paric. It is on academia. We can send it to you, but it's also online.
Okay, so I will
called
find
Storage
it.
in Pompeiopolis.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much.
But for Hamatus, there is a recent publications about the palace, and I wrote an article with Antigone Marongo about the Pithoi with a spot on the palace.
Okay, thank you very much. So I will look for these publications. Very interesting for me. Thanks a lot.
Okay, any other questions? Could you please all mute your microphones in case you don't have a question? No, no one? Okay, then, okay. So let's move on to our break until 2:30. Yes, yes. About a 45-minute break. And see you all after lunch break. Okay.
Thank you very much, Soy. That was very sweet of you again. Thank you for chairing the session.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I am
Yes.
Thomas Iosifidis.
Yes, Thomas.
I did connect via my mobile telephone, and
Great.
I wanted to ask you, when do you want to present?
After the break.
After the break. Okay, thanks very much.
So on 2:30.
Okay, thank you.
Great. See you all in a bit.
See you.
Thank you. Yes, we have also.
You have also, excuse me?
No, I was just trying to say we changed the schedule from Pompeiopolis to your to your presentation. Now I'm waiting for you to send me the PowerPoint so that I will just show it.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe you can start with your lecture, and I will show once I get it. I will show your slides. How about that?
Okay, I have no problem. Do you want? It's big, and it tells me that I cannot send it through via email. So
Yes.
I'm
How
sending
about we transfer?
We transfer, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. You could maybe send with me transfer.
And do you prefer to start with the other presentation?
Yes, why not? Why not?
Okay. Excuse me once more. I'll fix
No
it
problem.
now.
No problem.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Bu arada möchten Sie vielleicht die nächste also Vortrag mal annoncieren? Möchten Sie vielleicht? Wäre es möglich?
Also spricht der Thomas oder? Ja?
Nein, also die Mariella Inkova und Panayot Antonov
Okay.
vielleicht, wenn sie dann da sind, gell? Also ich suche mir dann erst, ob die da sind oder nicht. Also ja, doch, sie sind doch da. So, möchten Sie die annoncieren vielleicht?
Yeah. Alors, bonjour, bon après-midi à tous. Nous allons à cette première séance d'après-midi. Je voudrais inviter Mariella Inkova à parler.
Merci.
Noch verschwunden, oder?
Ou bien, alors, il y a une deuxième personne qui enregistré Monsieur Panoya Antonov de la même musée d'histoire, musée national d'histoire de Sofia à Bulgarie. Dr. Panayot Antonov, is he here? Let me just check. Well, I think they are not really listening. My impression. Let me check.
Panayot Antonov?
No. Okay, Alexander Alexiev, perhaps.
Mariella.
Mariella Inkova is there? No?
Yeah, Mariella is there. Eh?
Yeah, but she doesn't really answer. Or the other one. I was actually wondering if they're listening to us. Yeah, Mariella, could you maybe begin with your lecture? Could you hear us? No reactions? Mariella? Maybe the microphone does not really work out. Yes, değil mi o? Öyle bir.
Sonst Alexander. Ah, Thomas. So. Good. Oh, Gott sei Dank. Bien, on va commencer.
I'm ready if it is okay with you.
Yes, it is okay with us.
Okay, thank
Please.
you very much. Λοιπόν, this is the table of contents. We are going to talk about the system boards at first, about their usage and the way they were built. We proceed with the Dolia vessels and the maritime routes of the system boats. I'm going to talk to you about an autopsy that was held in Ephesus, where two Dolia-like Pithoi were detected. And at the end, we're going to sum on with the conclusions. So, the system boats, also known as Roman tankers, were merchant ships constructed in such a way that the central part of the hull was occupied by oversized Pithoi-like vessels, the Dolia. Their principal and confirmed usage was the maritime transportation of the vin ordinaire, a wine of moderate quality and inexpensive price on the western part of the Roman Empire. It is estimated that their first appearance in the Western Mediterranean was in the 1st century BC, during the Augustan period, and their short-lived activity was terminated in the middle of the 3rd century AD. The system boats were built in Minturne, in southern Lazio of Italy. These liquid cargo freighter ships constituted a shipbuilding innovation and an alternative choice for the shipping of wine by amphora. The system boats had unusual construction and design. The structure of the Dolia ships is known by dint of the system boats Grand Ribaudet, La Dispoli A, Diano Marina, La Ziraglia I, and La Ziraglia II remnants. The Roman tankers were built according to the sail-first method, and the connection between the strakes of the hull was made according to the common in the era technique of mortise and tenon joinery. The system boat's length is estimated about 20 meters and their width at circa 5 meters. Their cargo capacity is estimated between 45 and 50 tons. The Dolia of the system boats derived from the Minturne region, as revealed by the sealed inscriptions with the names of the Pyrannus local family. Most likely, the same family also built the system boats. The hull bottom was flat and was built in that way in order to accommodate the huge ceramic tanks inside the hull, to increase the capacity of the storage spaces and perhaps to be able to travel on river trade routes. Although it is bibliographically mentioned that this shipbuilding peculiarity had negative effects on the seaworthiness of the vessels, the system boats could have traveled more than 650 nautical miles in a one-way journey. As it seems, the flat bottom did not affect significantly the stability of the system boats. Their cruising speed and did not forbid them to sail in the open sea. However, it could be the cause of limited maneuverability in the course of sailing. The flat bottom was and still is a characteristic of shallow water boats and river boats. The main shipbuilding specification relates to the fact that the dolia, which constituted the ship's tank, were positioned firmly and unmovably in the center of the hull, forming an integral part of the ship. The dolia were stabilized by a wooden frame which formed a reinforced bulkhead in the center of the ship. Based on the interpretation of the confirmed system bone wrecks, it is widely acknowledged that the dolia were placed in 3 parallel lines along the length of the boat, parallel to the keel. The arrangement of the dolia was determined by the shape, cylindrical or ovoid spherical, and size of the containers. The cargo was supplemented by amphora of the Dressel 2-4 type. The amphora was stored in the stern and bow areas of the hull. The dolia were large ceramic vessels made for storing and transporting edible and potable products in the ancient Roman domain. They are regarded as the largest clay vessels of the ancient world. Thus, their robust construction and large capacity made them ideal for additional uses. Their use extended to wine production, to storage and the production of foodstuffs, to maritime transportation of wine, but also to uses related to daily habits. The dolium container might have an ovoid spherical or cylindrical shape, according to the above mention. It had a wide mouth with a thick rim, which was covered by a conical or domed lid with a handle, the operculum. The lid sealed the container in order to preserve its contents. It had no handles and no decoration. The dolia are assumed to have Greek and Etruscan origin. The capacity, based on the vessels found so far, ranged between 1,500 and 3,000 liters. Even though the dolia first appeared in Gaul in the 4th century BC, their origin seems to be related with the Caucasian region as a result of the winemaking knowledge exchanged between the cultural cradles of Mediterranean and Caucasus. Their advantage of oversized storage space compared to the other types of ceramic vessels spurred their spread to southern Central Europe. The dolia were manufactured in specialized workshops, the figline, by specialized ceramists, the doliarii. The dolia were sometimes marked with a seal referenced with the name of the manufacturer. The lifespan of the ship coincided with the lifespan of the pithos. When one of the two was destroyed, the period of the usage of the other ended. That is why the dolia were not being abandoned in case of wear. The use of lead, stapling plates, or clamps to repair breaks or cracks in dolia has often been observed. The existence of one or more dolia on the seabed may be due to a variety of reasons. It could be the result of a wreck of a dolia ship or a boat transporting dolia. It could be also a cargo discharge or even the result of an accidental cause, such as simple drifting of the dolia from their original position to the net of a fishing boat. But even when the probability of a shipwreck with dolia is confirmed by the relevant findings, it does not mean that it automatically falls into the category of cistern boats. The so far classification of the shipwrecks with dolia cargo as confirmed or hypothetical Roman tankers depends on the criteria used by each researcher. Until 1988, Antoinette Hesnard and her team classified only 6 wrecks in this category. In 2016, Candace Rice identified 10 wrecks.
Mr. Iossifidis, I'm sorry to jump in, but we cannot see your slides. Are you moving on with your slides?
Yes, excuse me 1 minute. Excuse me.
Yes.
I'll take it one more.
Great, that's great.
Is it
Great,
okay?
thank you.
Thank you very much. So, in 2016, Candace Rice identified 10 wrecks. In 2011, Karen Heslin compiled a list of 29 possible cases of cistern boat wrecks. 13 wrecks were categorized as tankers, and other 9 were classified as potential cistern boats. The remaining 7 were considered simple merchant ships that had included dolia in their cargo. During this research, 37 wrecks were studied and categorized as cistern boats, potential cistern boats, and merchant boats with dolia cargo. The classification was based on the following criteria. The wrecks should be dating between the 1st century BC and the 3rd century AD and carried wine. The boats also should have length circa 20 meters and their width should be circa 5 meters. Their supplementary cargo should be Dressel 2-4 type of amphora, and the finding of Pirani family stamps on the dolia surface is considered as a strong indication of being a sister boat. These 20 wrecks were identified as cistern boats. They were all located in the Western Mediterranean, except the Supetar wreck, which was found in the Croatian littoral. 7 wrecks were categorized as potential cistern boats. The majority of them were also found in the western part of the Mediterranean Sea. The rest, 18 wrecks, were considered as wrecks of merchant boats with dolia cargo. As we can see, the dolia vessels were spread in whole Mediterranean Sea. The system boats participate in a well-organized trading system, which is confirmed to connect the northern shores of the Western Mediterranean from Spanish Catalonia to Latium. 3 main harbor stations were described during these maritime routes: Minturne, Massilia, and Tarraco. Dolia located underwater or in coastal locations, wineries and ceramic workshops specialized in dolia production are the main indications of the existence of these networks. But the finding of dolia in several sites of the Adriatic Sea over the past 30 years has raised the possibility that the system boats exceeded the central Mediterranean and sailed to its eastern parts to spread their merchant. The trip to the Adriatic Sea included a coastal course from Minturne and a potential crossing from Monopolis to Dyrrhachium. A voyage to the eastern Mediterranean Sea could be the continuation of these Adriatic maritime routes. Due to their construction, it has been also suggested that the system boats enter the rivers Llobregat and Catalunya and drown in France from the estuaries in the Mediterranean Sea. Since the first 5 years of the 1990s decade, rumors were spread about the existence of dolia wreck in central Greece. The rumors were about 2 dolia-like jars located on the littoral of Ephesus in the Pagasetic Gulf. The author, with a specialized research group of divers, tracked down the 2 ceramic vessels and held an autopsy of the site, as part of his master thesis. The dolia-like Pithoi were laying on the depth of 29 meters below the sea surface. The team measured the vessels and proceeded to a photographical and photogrammetry documentation. Although the first appraisal shows that the jars are not the typical dolia, it seems that they have a hybrid shape between Pithoi, and dolia. The purpose of the system boat's construction was to provide quite economical transport of liquid products by sea and possibly by rivers to the European mainland. The annual duration of coastal activity during the Roman period extended between April and October. The time limitation of maritime trade set a very important limitation. Limitation for starting the construction of system boats. The appearance of the Roman tankers yielded greater profits in the given time of shipping activity. These merchant ships transporting massive quantities of bulk wine responded to the leap in the volume of the production and the transportation of wine, resulting from the empire's expansion. Reports of tracking dolia in areas beyond the central and western Mediterranean continue to multiply, raising expectation of a find that would change the history of maritime trade in the Mediterranean. My intention was dual. First of all, to present a brief report on the system boats based on the knowledge that has been gathered until the present moment, and secondly, to present the results of the Ephesus autopsy and advance on an open and productive discussion with the attendees about their interpretation. The study of system boats wrecks as a specific category of ships could provide a new perspective on their shipbuilding purpose and their maritime routes, unveiling hidden aspects of the Roman maritime trade. Thank you very much.
Bien, merci pour this interessante.
Excuse me?
Yeah. Je voudrais maintenant inviter Mariela Inkova et Panayot Antonov à présenter leur rapport. Il y a peut-être quelques questions regardant cette intervention, cette leçon. S'il n'y a aucune, nous irons à écouter la prochaine communication.
Oui, mais il y a un problème, je crois. Est-ce que Monsieur Thomas, Yossifidis est fini?
Oui, je suis fini.
D'accord, merci beaucoup.
Was there any problem with the presentation? could you see the slides?
Well, let me check first. Let me check first. Well, we still have the slide of PowerPoint of Mr. Yosifidis. I should maybe give the administration rights to Mariella and Panayot. Now you could share your screen with others. Is that okay? Panayot and Mariella.
And
Yes.
How do I share the screen?
Hello, everyone. Do you see our presentation?
Not yet, Panayot. Not yet. I have given you the administration rights. Maybe you could arrange on your own. If not, you could also send me your PowerPoint so that I will display it. No problems.
I shared it.
Yes. Well, I still have Thomas' PowerPoint actually. Maybe. Yes. Now maybe. Now I can see it now. Thank you. Yes. I can see it. Perfect. Let me just check if.
Okay, well, we are ready to start.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, please.
Please. Thank you very much.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Panayot Antonov from the National Museum of History in Sofia. And by my side is my colleague Mariela Inkova, Dr. Mariela Inkova. She is the head of the medieval department in our museum. Our report is dedicated to two stamps with, in our opinion, prophylactic symbolism on pithos from the Bukelon fortress near the city of Adrianople. So I'll read our report. The subject of the present study are two seals on fragments of a pithos. The two fragments have an irregular, slightly concave shape, missing the authentic edges. The outer surface is pink brown after firing, and the inner is light gray. They are made of sandy clay with many small pebbles. They are baked evenly. On the outer surface, immediately below the mouth rim, a relief decoration of white horizontal band with uniform punctures, probably imitating a rope, is applied. Below it, before the firing, two stamps with a round relief shape are applied. In the center of the round field is a plastic equal-armed Greek cross with widening ends, and in the interscapular area, a relief butt. The composition is inscribed in a round frame of trapezoidal plastic motifs, imitating rays arranged at equal distances. The seals are partially preserved. One is missing a part of the frame, while the other is preserved only in half. The fragments were discovered during the regular archaeological excavations of the Bukelon fortress near the village of Matuchina, Svilengrad region, southeastern Bulgaria. This is on the Bulgarian-Turkish border. The fortification is located on a high, steeply sloping plateau. It falls between the southeastern slopes of the Sakar mountain and more precisely between the Dervent highlands and the valley of the Tunja river. The flat part of the plateau is approximately 150 meters long and 65 meters wide. I'll give a brief historical reference for the fortress because it's not very well-known site. In the 3rd, 6th centuries, the fortress fell into the immediate hinterland of Adrianopolis. Together with the Prubaton fortress near the modern village of Sinanköy in Turkey, and the Skutarion fortress near the modern village of Shtit in Bulgaria, it is part of the protective belt to the north of the provincial capital of the province of Chemimontus. The fortress is located roughly 40 kilometers to the east of the Via Diagonalis highway. It falls on the route of a meridional road mentioned in the Itinerarium Antonini Augusti. Do you hear us? Sorry.
Yes, we do hear you now.
Okay. It falls on the route of a meridional road mentioned in the Itinerarium Antonini Augusti, which in late antiquity connected the provinces of Mysia Inferior and Chemimontus in the Diocese of Tracia, on the way to the capital city of Constantinople. In the Middle Ages, this same road was the main connection between the Bulgarian Tsardom to the north and the Byzantine Empire to the south. The Karel and Herman Škorpil brothers and Konstantin Irecek in the late 19th century were the first to identify the fortification with the name of the fortress written on a marble column, namely Bukelon. The column itself, which nowadays is preserved in the Regional Historical Museum in Shumen in Bulgaria, is evidence of the conquest of the fortress in 813 by the Bulgarian ruler Prum. Historical sources testify that in the 9th and 15th centuries, Bukelon was the seat of a bishop. From the Notitia Episcopatum, it is known that in the 10th and 12th centuries, the Diocese of Bukelon belonged to the metropolis of Adrianople. The town of Bukelon is mentioned several times in the Historia of John VI Cantacuzenus on the occasion of the Bulgarian-Byzantine relations and the participation of the Bulgarian Tsar Mikhail Shishman in the Byzantine civil war between the emperors Andronicus II and Andronicus III in 1324 to 1328. The same author again mentions Bukelon as temporary seat of the 1344 governor of Adrianople, Manuel Apokavsk. Sorry. It is assumed that after the conquest of Adrianople, the fortress of Bukelon and Pruvaton fell under Ottoman rule in the late 60s, early 70s of the 14th century. During the Ottoman period, the settlement was renamed to Fikle and was included in the Ottoman military administrative system. It is known under this name in the earliest Ottoman tax registers dated to 1485. It was the center of the Nahia of Fikle and belonged to the Vakıf of the Imaret of Sultan Mehmed II in Istanbul. In 1590, a change in the status of the settlement was noted. It was mentioned in the registers only as village of Fikle. In 1530 to 1570, it belonged to the Kaza of Edirne. Ottoman registers record an increase in the number of both Muslims and Christian families, which is explained by the tax relief of the Vakıf. An interesting fact is that the heads of some of the Muslim householders are recorded as sons of Abdullah, meaning that Christians who converted to Islam. One of the last written sources is a note from the diaries of Sultan Mehmed IV from 1664 that he was on a royal hunt in the area of the village of Fikle. As a monument belonging to the cultural heritage of the Byzantine Empire, the Bukelon fortress seems to have remained out of sight of Bulgarian medieval archaeology for many years. Site surveys have been limited to field walks. Regular archaeological excavations began only in 2017. Within 5 years, the stratigraphy of the cultural layers has been established. The earliest traces of habitation date back to the early Iron Age. On the plateau of the fortress, settlements existed in the late Iron Age, as well as in the Hellenistic and the Roman periods. The impressive fortification system was probably constructed in the 4th, 5th centuries and was repaired in the 6th century. There are also traces of reconstruction works carried out in the Middle Ages, specifically in the Middle Byzantine period, judging by the recorded usage of clay instead of mortar in the masonry of some sections of the wall. When the cultural layers in 2 of the control trenches were excavated, parts of 2 late antique buildings were studied. One of them constructed in the opus mixtum technique. We attribute the construction of the building to the 4th, 5th century. Immediately below their floor levels, in the leveling layer above the rock surface, late Roman kitchenware and red slipped ware from the 3rd, 4th centuries has been found, along with coins from the second half of the 3rd century. The numismatic material indicates an almost continuous occupation of the area from the Hellenistic period to the Ottoman period. The importance of the fortress in the Middle Ages is also confirmed by the several discovered lead seals from the 11th, 13th centuries, including the seal of Avram Pax, the chief falconer of the Byzantine emperor from the end of the 13th century. You can see the seal here. And we continue with the fragments from the pithos. The fragments commented here were discovered in 2022 in the layers of one of the premises of a building attached to the late antique fortress wall. During its study, the floor levels were recorded, which we attribute to the wide chronological range of the 4th, 6th centuries. The discovery of the fragments in one place, the identical composition of the clay with a considerable admixture of sand, the identical thickness of the shards, the characteristic color indicating the same firing conditions, as well as the identical horizontal plastic line applied to both fragments below the mouth rim, suggests that the 2 fragments are most likely from the same pithos. It can be assumed that the seals were applied at equal distances from each other. The iconography of the image in the central field an equal armed cross with dots in the interscapular area has been widespread since late antiquity and throughout the Middle Ages. We find it in different variants on stone sculpture. A relief from the Androna fortress, for example, in northern Syria from the 5th century, in Athens, in Corinth from the 5th, 6th centuries, on tablewares from the 5th, 6th centuries, in murals, amulets, bread stamps, etc., etc. It is most often inscribed with a circle. According to some researchers, the dots are a reduced schematic representation of the monogram Iisus Christos Nika, or the apocalyptic letters. Sometimes 4 smaller crosses inscribed in circles are depicted in the armhole. A similar composition is known from 4 prosphora seals from Chersonesus and the Kerch Peninsula, dated to the 6th century, as well as from Eskikermen and Aluston, dated to the 10th century. According to Zaleskaya, they symbolize the Christian blessing: Christ bestows grace on Christians. In other images, however, such as mosaics, fruits and specifically pomegranates are depicted in the lower spans of the cross, while flowers or birds in the upper ones. The general symbolism, according to early Christian interpretations, is the idea of the revival of nature, fertility, resurrection, and salvation. Most likely, it was this iconography and meaning that generated the schematic image executed on the limited space of the Pithoi stamps. The combination of the composition is interesting, specifically the round frame with plastic trapezoidal motifs inscribed in it. A starting point for the interpretation could be the early Christian prosphora, where a text is written in the frame, most often with a soteriological or a blessing meaning. This means that the ornament in the commented seals from Bukelon Fortress can be an imitation of a prototype with an inscribed text. This interpretation is possible, but not sufficiently argued. Although with a later date, 3 prosphora are worth noting: from the broad area of the Chersonesus, from the water reservoir of Chersonesus as well, and from the settlement of Belinsky on the Taurica Peninsula, dated within the broad limits of the 8th, 9th, and 10th centuries. Here, the frame around the central medallion with the cross is divided into identical trapezoidal segments with inscribed crosses. Regarding one of the prosphora from Chersonesus, Zaleskaya suggests that the sectors with crosses could symbolize the 12 apostles. And on one of the seals from Chersonesus, the liturgical text around them suggests influence from the monophysitic Church of the East. The closest parallel to the iconography of the image, and subsequently to the embedded symbolism, can be found in several seals on Pithoi walls from the late antique, early medieval fortress of Chrysoutira on the western Black Sea coast. The stamps are circular. In the central field, there are raised crosses with flaring edges. In the interscapular, there are triangular motifs, and the field of the circular frame is filled with triangular motifs, with the difference that the tips point to the periphery. Below the mouth rim, the pithos has an identical decoration of a horizontal relief line imitating a rope. The preserved fragments allow us to reconstruct their location, probably in the 2 parallel belts encircling the shoulders of the pithos. They come from building number 28, whose occupation is defined by the discovered coins of emperors Justin II and Phocas, and synchronous household ware. A century earlier, we find the same composition on a representative early Christian monument. The floor, the floor mosaic from the temple of Shavei Zion in modern Israel dated to the 5th century. It represents a Greek cross with flared ends, and in the interstices are depicted pomegranates and flowers inscribed in rows of circles with triangular motifs such as radiant glow. We find the first written evidence of such a glow in the work Vita Constantini of Eusebius, Bishop of Caesarea, in the 4th century. The author describes the vision of the Emperor Constantine, a radiant cross in the sky, with the help of which he achieved his victory over Maxentius in 312 in Italy. The canonical source provides the basis for the widespread distribution of the motif in the early Christianity, in high culture monuments, but also in everyday ordinary life. According to Professor Galavaris, the second belt suggests the idea of a red reflecting the light of the radiant cross. In our commentary on the genesis and spread of the cross inscribed in alternating circular radiant medallions of triangular and trapezoidal motifs, the relief decoration on a pithos cover, again from the early Byzantine fortress of Chrysosotira, should be noted. The monument is fragmented, and we are not sure about the central image, but from the center to the periphery, it is decorated with 2 rows of triangular and trapezoidal quadrangular motifs. Covers with similar decoration are known from other early Byzantine sites. The given examples illustrate the widespread of a religious idea, both among the elite sacral culture and its transformation through the combination of geometric forms in the mass everyday culture in the 5th, 6th centuries. According to the numismatic material, the fragments of the pithos from Chrysosotira fortress are attributed to the second half of the 6th and the 7th centuries. In fact, due to their size, production technique, the need for spatial firing kilns, followed by the final stages of the technological process, such as coating, polishing, transportation, Pithoi have been an impressive investment for their owners. Made only to order, they were a long-lasting investment, sometimes used for centuries. Therefore, we assume that they were produced earlier. As for the fragments from the Bukelon fortress, the stratigraphy, as well as the lack of stationary structures and numismatic material that can be attributed to the 7th century, allows us to indicate an upper chronological limit in the 6th century. Apart from the commented fragments, Pithoi, decorated and stamped with seals from today's Bulgarian lands, are known to us from the early Byzantine fortress near the town of Biala and from the town of Shabla. Both of them are on the western Black Sea coast. The pithos from the fortress near the town of Shabla originates from an ergasterium that functioned from the 6th to the beginning of the 7th century, when it was burned during one of the Avar invasions in 614. The seals have a round shape filled with radially located relief arcs. The ornament is characteristic of the early Byzantine ornamental system known to us from stone sculptures from the same period. The stamps are applied to the shoulders, seemingly equidistant from each other. On the shoulders of the second pithos, discovered next to the modern lighthouse near the town of Shabla in northern part of the western Black Sea coast, circular seals are placed on equal distances. We have no information about its context and dating. According to the results of the archaeological research in recent years, the region falls within the area of the Roman and early Byzantine fortress of Caria, with traces of habitation from the 5th century BC to the 6th century AD. The third example is a stamp on the neck of a pithos. It is circular in shape. In the center is represented a relief Greek cross with forked ends under an arc supported by columns. In the frame around it is placed an inscription in Greek, God's blessing upon us. The seal has identical dimensions to the one from Bouquelon. It was found in a room with economic functions attached to the early Christian basilica in modern Stamata, East Attica region. Ergün Laflı dates it to the 6th, 7th centuries, noting that two bread stamps are identical to it, one preserved in the Byzantine Museum in Athens, and the second of unknown origin. Two more completely preserved pithoi originate from the same context, one of which has 6 round seals located around the shoulder. A relief cross is depicted in the center, and Greek letters symbolizing the monogram of Christ and the cross are depicted in the groch. Book 6 of the Agricultural Encyclopedia Geoponica, compiled in the first half of the 10th century, based on earlier treatises, including Cassianus Bassus' treatise from the 5th and 6th centuries, describe in detail the technology of production of pithoi intended for the storage and fermentation of wine. The selection of suitable raw materials, the mixing of different clays, the shaping of the body, the drying, the firing in the kilns suitable for the purpose, the coating with pine resin, while the vessels are still warm, the polishing of the surface. Recommendations are given on the appropriate place to install them in basements, according to the orientation of the room, but there is no information on their stamping. The production technique of these large storage vessels is extremely conservative, preserved until the 15th, 19th centuries. Ethnographic data from the territory of Cyprus, however, testify that the practice of chiseling and stamping with crosses, placing apotropaic inscriptions, protecting the food stored in the pithos was alive. The stamp inscription from Stamata, East Attica, suggests the function and symbolism of the cross seals on the pithos. Already in the early stages of the spread of Christianity, in his homily on the cross and the robber, John Chrysostom postulated its ubiquity as a symbol of salvation and a trophy against demons. It is in the decoration of the church space, located most often around the pilasters, entrances, and exits, on church vessels, while in everyday life, this is a citation, on the walls of houses, in cities, villages, in abandoned and populated areas, on construction ceramics, vessels, and others, emphasizing the apotropaic symbolism. The Christian rhetoric about the power of the cross can also be found in one of the catechisms of Cyril of Jerusalem, especially relevant for the specific case. Another citation, with our hand, we will depict the sign of the cross on our foreheads and on everything, on the bread we eat, on the cups we drink from. Several graffiti on storage vessels with divine blessing specify the use of the sign of the cross in this context. On the already commented pithos from the ergasteria in the town of Biala, before the firing, a cross was formed, flanked by bunches of grapes, followed by a text in Greek, Kyrie Boete, translated God helps. The same invocation is present on another pithos from Biala, written, however, after the firing and without a cross. The extent to which this is a stereotyped practice is confirmed by the rich repertoire of crosses and birds in circular medallions incised with a sure hand on the pithos from the town of Ubzor in Bulgaria. Many examples from the 5th, 6th centuries can also be cited from the area of northern Dobruja in modern Romania. Pithos with graffiti with the sign of the cross or Christogram, as well as a pithos cover with the Christogram and the formula Kyrie Boete, were found in Istria. On the Hydria cap from Capidava is depicted a cross accompanied by the apocalyptic letters. The given examples suggest the apotropaic function of the cross, inlaid or stamped on the pithos, respectively in relation to the products stored in them, cereals or wine. Chapter 14 of Book 7 of Geoponics, however, points to another of its practical functions. The advice to winemakers is the following: a label that in the most correct way protects the wine from going sour. And also, the wine cannot turn sour if you write on the vessel or write such divine words. Taste and you will see that the Lord is just. This means that the blessing, respectively the sign of the cross in the minds of believers, also have a prophylactic function in relation to the stored products. We will also pay attention to another important point related to the production of the stamps themselves. Gini Tsuhopoulou mentions two prosphoric stamps with identical iconography to the seal on the neck of a pithos from Stamata. The presence of identical seals on various objects, storage vessels, and liturgical monuments of the Christian cult with identical iconography suggests the existence of a centralized production, probably to some ecclesiastical center that handles a certain repertoire of standardized symbols. A similar assumption was reached by Professor Galavaris on the basis of monuments with identical seals found, however, in different places. The author emphasizes one of the functions of seals as a testimony of their origin, quality, or authenticity of stored foods. They are also a means of control over production or trade by ecclesiastics. We will note that stamps with crosses are also known on amphora from the same period. Piri, Petridis, and Parshina also suggest their origin from a production center connected to an ecclesiastical institution. However, can this be applied to the production of pithos? Several rooms of different dates have been studied near the early Christian basilica in Stamata, including those with economic functions, storing food products, but there is no information about ceramic production. The architectural center in the fortress on Cape of St. Athanasius in the town of Biala, Bulgarian Black Sea coast, consists of an early Christian basilica, a priest's residence, several baptisteries, a holy spring, and nearby an ergasterias, 3 wineries, a pottery kiln, a public bath. Can it be assumed that for the needs of the wine production in the vicinity, the vessels necessary for the storage of the finished product were also made. At this stage, however, we have no evidence for such a hypothesis. So far, the information about the life and livelihood of the inhabitants of the Bukelon fortress in the 5th, 6th centuries are too limited. The similar iconography and rather the same principle of combining the separate motifs of the two seals from Bukelon and Chrysosutira, a Greek cross inscribed in a frame with geometric motifs, possibly an allusion to the radiant light, point to a stylistic similarity. It can be assumed that the two printing aids were produced in different ecclesiastical centers, working with a similar repertoire of Christian symbols. Traceological observations on the relief of the prints indicate that the printing tools were in the negative. Although the stamping was before the firing of the pithos on the still wet vessel, due to the thickness of the vessels, some pressure was necessary to reveal the ornament. This suggests that the printing implements were most likely wooden or metal. Despite the proposed hypothesis, we hope that the two monuments from the Bukelon fortress will expand the empirical base of stamps on Pithoi and suggest in the future the answers to many questions related to their production, transportation, the livelihood of the population, but also about the mental representations of the believers during the ages of the late antiquity and the early Middle Ages. Thank you for your attention.
Merci. Très intéressant, vraiment très intéressant. J'ai vraiment apprécié ce que vous avez présenté. Le symbole de la croix entre 4 points d'angle au rosace est cependant bien connu en numismatique depuis le 1er siècle avant Jésus-Christ, mais également a été utilisé par les dirigeants des domaines francs de la Grèce après la 4e croisade. Je me demande si les écrits avec la formule de bénédiction appartiennent à des particuliers et ils ont été trouvés dans les maisons des particuliers ou à des dépôts ecclésiastiques. Et la datation vient du contexte ou de la similitude de timbre. Alors, j'aurais cette demande. Avez-vous compris?
Je peux traduire si c'est nécessaire, je peux traduire en anglais, si vous voulez. If you want, I could translate it. I can translate it into English. Would you like me to translate it for you, Panoya?
So, sorry?
Would you like me to translate the comments of Dr. Buoro into English? Would you like me to?
Well,
or, yeah, you understood.
Yes, and my colleague Mariella, she speaks French.
Okay, great. Yes. Would you like to answer? Yes.
Okay, so maybe in English because she didn't hear the question.
Monsieur Bois, est-ce que pouvez-vous répéter, s'il vous plaît? Je peux traduire mot à mot, si vous voulez.
Je n'ai pas compris la question.
D'accord. Monsieur Bois, est-ce que pouvez-vous répéter si c'est possible? Je peux traduire mot à mot en anglais. Monsieur Bois. Also Herr Bois, Sie können das auch auf Deutsch sagen, wenn Sie mögen. Ich kann dann alles ins Englisch übersetzen, wenn Sie mögen. Herr Bois, bitte schön.
Alors, j'invite le prochain relateur, le docteur Alexander Alexiev, à parler, à prendre la parole.
D'accord. Mariella, did you hear it? Mariella?
Yes.
Mag nichts.
Ach so. Gut. Also, möchten Sie die nächste Beitrag halt annoncieren, Herr Bohrer?
Ja.
Ja,
alors, j'invite Monsieur Alexander Alexiev à prendre la parole.
D'accord, merci.
C'est votre heure.
Alexander, are you here? Alexander.
Yes. Hello.
Great. Could you? Yes. Hello. Hi. I'm giving you the thing, the administration rights, so that you can just share your screen if you wish. So you're more than welcome to begin with your lecture, please. Thank you.
Just a second to load it. I guess you can see it now. Is it moving?
Well, we're waiting for you. If not, then I'll also try to help you for sharing the screen.
Is it moving?
Not
The
yet,
presentation?
but we're waiting you patiently. Don't worry about this. It's not really moving yet.
And right now?
Not yet. We will let you know once once it is so far. We will let you know about that.
Okay. I just want to.
You can also send it to me, and I'll manage it.
No. The problem is.
Yeah. Don't worry, we have time for it.
No. I just want to use presenter's view.
Yes.
But I'm not sure if it is working. No. Sadly, no.
Not yet, but as I said, do not panic. You could also send it, send your PowerPoint.
No, it's working, but I want to read from. Yes, I'm so sorry.
No problems, because Thomas did have the same problem early this morning, and then he solved it. So we could wait. Don't worry about this.
Yes, but I don't know how can I activate the presenter's view.
Maybe we should ask Panoya. Panoya, could you maybe describe it in Bulgarian to Alexander? Maybe you have the same Bulgarian menu in your computer. Panoya or Mariella? Because you guys both speak Bulgarian, as far as I do know.
Александър, чуваш ли ни?
Да, здравейте. Искам да си активирам Presenters View, само че не ми излиза текста, който ми е отдолу.
За това не мога да ти помогна, не знам.
Да го изпрати по имейл и...
Не, тя самата презентация работи. Просто аз искам да ползвам текста. Добре, на път съм да го... Okay. Now, I see. Sorry for the problems. My name is Alexander Alexiev. I am a PhD candidate from Sofia University, St. Clement Ochridsky. And for this presentation, I'd like to express my gratitude to Dr. Rumiana Koleva from Sofia University for giving me the unpublished materials from the site of Zlatna Livada. Stara Planina Mountain, also referred to as the Balkan or the Hemus Mountains, constitutes a significant mountain range situated in the Eastern Balkan Peninsula. Its vast expanse extends from the Timok River in the west to the Cape Emine on the Black Sea coast in the east, forming a natural boundary that defines the region's landscape. Consequently, the surveyed area is linked to its geographical prominence to To the north, this area extends towards the Danube River, encompassing the expansive Danube Plain. To the south, it meets with the Stranja and Sakar mountains, alongside with the towering Rio-Rodop Massif, thereby defining its southern border. Finally, Sofia and Pernik valleys are also included to its frames, which are here, the small ellipse. The question at hand is particularly interesting and intriguing, as this ceramic group has yet to receive dedicated research attention. Currently, there is a lack of formal attempts within Bulgarian specialized literature to classify this type of archaeological material. This omission likely stems from the perception that vessels within this group represent aspects of daily life that scholars often overlook, either due to their commonplace nature or their limited significance as a dating material. However, over the years, a substantial body of excavated material has been accumulated, with findings dispersed across numerous articles, studies, and monographies, each shedding light on various local aspects of storage vessels. Generally, medieval storage vessels from the aforementioned region can be categorized into the following groups: Pithoi or dolia, delvas, large storage pots, and large amphorid jugs or pitchers, excuse me. The latter of which are very poorly studied and and so they will not be shown here. The chronological scope of this presentation aligns with the dates of the examined ceramics, ranging from the 9th to the 14th century AD. Unlike foreign literature, where the term pithos is commonly used to denote large storage vessels regarding less to their shape or characteristics, Bulgarian literature excuse me. Bulgarian literature distinguishes pithoi as vessels with a large volume and a spheroid or ovoid body. Essentially, these correspond to the Roman dolia, a term typically employed in literature to specify vessels described in ancient Latin sources, despite sharing the same meaning as the Greek pithos. These vessels, anyway, are distinguished by their significant size, thick walls, and rounded bodies. They typically feature wide mouths and a base that either rounds or ends with a conical toe or foot. Next, delvos, they represent a distinct category of storage vessels, although some researchers may classify them as a part of the Pithoi group. Here they are distinguished as a separate category to provide clarity and differentiation from the previously described ceramic group. Here you can see some of the types. Notably, delvos are characterized by their smaller dimension and thinner walls compared to Pithoi. The third group, the so-called large pots. While in the literature, these vessels are often labeled as delvos or Pithoi, primarily to their relatively large sizes. Their morphological and technological features closely resemble those of smaller kitchen pots. Unlike delvos, which typically exhibit a slender appearance, these vessels are characterized by their wider and more squat proportions. They are also smaller than the delvos. Distribution and chronology. While the use of Pithoi is extensively documented during the Middle Ages in the regions like the Mediterranean, Crimea, the Pontic coast, Asia Minor, and certain areas of the Caucasus Mountains. In the studied area, there are very few instances discovered so these very few instances are connected to a multi-layered archaeological sites with strata dating back to the Roman period and the late antiquity. Hence, we must consider the possibility that the medieval population of these areas repurposed the storage vessels from previous epochs. Illustrative example can be found in the medieval settlement situated on the Krakra hill near the town of Pernik. According to the researcher, reused Pithoi was unearthed in buildings 10, 26, and 54. Another convincing instance involving two Pithoi is discovered in Diocletianopolis. These vessels were uncovered partially buried within a medieval room situated in a peristyle building, which dates back to the 4th century AD. The room, positioned in the eastern section of the Roman building, is dated between the 9th and the 10th centuries, coinciding with the period of medieval settlement established upon the city's ruins. A few poorly constructed walls were erected in order to obstruct the intercolumn of the portico. You can see it here. Notably, the pithoi were positioned between two of the columns, suggesting that they were placed there at a later stage when the portico ceased its original function and can be safely associated with medieval habitation. The circumstances surrounding the discovery of the pithoi at the so-called palace on Tsarevets Hill in the city of Veliko Trnovo likely parallel the same scenario. You see, the second one is not illustrated in the publication. This is why I gave this strange picture. Beneath the foundations of the medieval building, where the container was unearthed, remains of an earlier building have been identified, which researchers, or more likely some researchers, attribute to the late antiquity. And this is a very interesting topic because this building may be late antique Hurrium with some pithoi buried inside it, and this the mentioned vessels may originate from that building. The final examples come from the village of Zlatna Livada, where sizable pithos, was unearthed in a settlement dating back to the 11th and 12th centuries. The vessel likely was transported from a nearby Roman site. Stands out as an intriguing discovery due to its rarity. This is the pithoi. The so-called delvas. Few delvas were found at the medieval fortress of Scala. Now I will begin only with the stratified finds. Here you can see the location of the fortress, or what is left of it. They were uncovered in dugout dwellings 6, 9, and 30. Archaeologists also identified fragments of domestic wheel-thrown pottery pieces of glass bracelets, and some anonymous Byzantine coins. And based on these findings, the site can be dated between the late 10th and the first half of the 11th century. These are the material in the dugout dwellings. As you can see, this is a shard of one of the vessel's walls. This is another example from the dugout dwelling 9. And the next, you can see as well. Actually, the materials are in general the same and date to the end of the 10th and the first half of 11th century. A fully restored delva was unearthed in building 6 within the so-called complex situated in the southwest corner of the inner city in Pliska. Alongside it, archaeologists discovered fragments of both handmade and wheel-thrown domestic pottery, as well as an anonymous Byzantine follis of class D dating between 1050 and 1060. The so-called large pots. Two large pots were found at the medieval settlement near the village of Oderci. You can see here its location. The first one was found in dwelling 82. Stratigraphically, this dwelling falls into the last chronological phase of the settlement. Two spindle whorls and a reliquary cross were found. The parallels of this cross are dated from the end of the 10th and the beginning of the 11th century. The second one was found in room 26. Sadly, no reliable dating material has been found inside this dwelling, but from a stratigraphic point of view, this house refers to the same chronological phase as the previous one mentioned. In the aforementioned buildings, along with other contemporaneous dwellings in the medieval settlement, evidence of a destructive fire was uncovered. The excavators interpret these ruins as the aftermath of an enemy raid. Apart from the burnt structures, the discovery of archaeological implements hidden within some of the buildings are cited as further evidence of the settlement's unfortunate demise. The latest coins from the same layer are dated between 1028 and 1042, serving as a terminus postquem for both the presumed destruction and, of course, the use of the pottery found in situ. Yet another large pot was unearthed in one of the chain rooms attached to the outer face of the small fortress of Preslav. Researchers suggest that these premises served as a commercial function, housing trading posts in the medieval city. They suggest that the premises were destroyed simultaneously, likely during a critical moment for the fortress defense, given their vulnerable location, which posed a threat of outsiders scaling the fortress wall. The discovery of lead seals within the complex, dating to the 11th century, serves as a terminus postquem for this destruction. A fragment of the neck and shoulders of a large pot was discovered inside a building in the already mentioned complex in Pliska. Beneath its foundations, actually beneath the foundation of the building, archaeologists uncovered a worn coin dating somewhere between 976 and 1035, serving as a terminus postquem for the construction of the same building. The destruction is believed to have occurred in 1060 or in 1060s, more likely. And in the end, it is linked once again with an enemy raid. Now you can see the pot. In general, Delvas can be dated between the 10th and the 14th centuries. Similar vessels are found at some Byzantine sites as early as the 9th century. There is interesting example from the so-called Elenska Basilica near the town of Pirdop, which dates from the late antiquity. The vessel found there, however, is probably a medieval one. It was discovered outside the walls, the red area that you see. So its connection with the basilica is very doubtful. Other medieval materials were also found at these sites. As an example, you can see this reliquary cross. In general, large pots were widely used during the medieval period, and their absence during the 12th and 13th centuries is probably due to the small number of published specimens, and new data could add more to their dating and to their knowledge. Information regarding the locations and methods of storage vessel production is in the regions of Stara Planina mountain is very limited. However, from the available data, it is known that both slow and fast-moving potter's wheels were utilized in the production. There are only two kilns used for firing ceramics, situated in the close proximity to the outer fortress wall of Preslav. Archaeologists propose that these kilns date back to the 9th and 10th centuries and are associated with the ceramic production of the medieval city. You can see their location here. The researchers, however, suggest that the smaller of the two kilns were used for firing large storage vessels. However, this assertion lacks concrete evidence and should be approached with caution. The ceramic material documented around these two kilns were categorized by the researchers into four technological groups. In any way, upon reading carefully, it becomes apparent that the pottery can be divided into two distinct chronological categories. The first one is medieval, and the second one is an earlier pre-Roman pottery. Given the somewhat ambiguous nature of the stratigraphic data, doubts arise regarding the medieval association of those two facilities, and the presence of medieval materials is likely a secondary discovery, which can be related to one of the keels more likely being used as the foundation of a medieval dugout dwelling. As a conclusion, we can say that Pithoi after all, was not produced and very poorly represented in the studied area. All the examples are reused, containers from earlier times. Maybe wine or other liquids were not produced during the Middle Ages in the area around the Haemus Mountains. Or, of course, the certain rise of the usage of storage pits may have come as a so-called compensation for the lack of dolia. In this case, one can hardly assume that these pits were utilized in the wine production, of course. So we can say that at some point, or at least some of the dolia used in late antiquity was utilized as grain storages. Some alternative vessels, of course, such as delvas and large pots were used. Maybe the delvas was used as a liquid container. And this picture here, you see, it is from a gospel book dating to the 14th century, and inside it we can read the name vodonos, which means vessel purposed for the storage of water, or something like the Greek hydria. Some literary sources, of course, are very important to this topic, such as Geoponica, as our colleagues said it before me. Some evangelical texts surely can add some more information. And of course, the illustrative data and its semiotic relations are also very interesting. But the last ones are, they deserve a presentation of their own, and yes, maybe at the next Pithoi conference I can show my views upon these matters too. Thank you for your attention.
So, Zoe, are you there? Would you like to announce the next speaker, perhaps? Zoe?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, my keyboard got stuck. That's why I couldn't type a message. Okay, our next speaker is, I'm sorry, Itamar Taksel, if I pronounce it correctly, who will talk about Fatimid, the early Crusader period in Palestine, new insights on their type of chronology, production technique, and provenance. We're ready to hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Zoe and Ergün, for the inviting me and on this cooperation. Okay, so this lecture indeed presents a group of Fatimid and early Crusader period, or 11th to 12th centuries Pithoi, from excavated sites in Israel, which shed new light on the typochronology, sources of manufacture, distribution, and use of these large containers in the early medieval southern Levant. Next slide, please. In the previous centuries, I mean before the 11th century, locally documented Pithoi included late antique types imported from the northern Mediterranean or produced locally, which were about 80 centimeters to 1 meter high, as these examples demonstrate. For example, the, let's say, Cypriot or most probably North Syrian Pithoi seen at the left, and the local probably produced in the Golan, pithos produced in the Golan Heights from the 6th century. And the next slide, please. And here you can see also various early Islamic local Pithoi or Azyar, as they were called in Arabic, plural Azyar or singular Zir, which were usually smaller, a little bit smaller than the late antique jars. These were about 60 to 80 or 90 centimeters high. An example from the Jerusalem region can be seen at the left, and several more fragmentary examples produced either in the Galilee or in northern Transjordan can be seen at the right. And these are dated roughly between the 8th to 10th centuries. Next, please. During the 11th century, the variety of pithoi, or zyar, if you like, in the region seems to somewhat increase with the appearance of larger jars up to circa 1.3 meter high and 90 centimeters in diameter. The best known published examples are 3 complete or near complete pithoi found in the so-called House of Bronzes in Tiberias in Galilee, near the Sea of Galilee, in the north of Israel, which were found in a reuse context as containers for hoarded metal valuables and coins. It should be noted, however, that these pithoi from Tiberias were not analyzed petrographically or otherwise studied regarding their technology or distribution. Here you can see these 3 pithoi in situ, and one of them at the left, sorry, and some of the bronze items stored in the 3 of these jars. Next, please. The present study examined 9 complete and fragmentary pithoi found in excavations at 5 sites in central and southern Israel, in context dated to either the 11th or 12th centuries. The shared characteristics are an oval body, flat base, 4 handles on the shoulder, and the short neck, but they vary in the rim profile, fabric, and sometimes their size. The first complete jar that can be seen here has an outfolded rim, and it was found in Jerusalem in the so-called Terra Santa compound in the Christian quarter in the old city of Jerusalem. And it is over 1.3 meter high and 90 centimeters wide. It was handmade probably by the coils technique, but the neck was probably made separately on the wheel and was then attached to the handmade body, and of course the handles were produced by the hand and attached to the shoulder. Next, please. The second fragmentary pithos was found together with the first one from Jerusalem, but it was probably smaller and has a square rim, as you can see in these photos. Next. The third, rather complete jar was found in Mulabis on the edge of the inner central coast and the Samaria foothills within the modern city of Petah Tikva. It is virtually identical to the Jerusalem Pithos A, the complete one, and it was found as 2 detached, 2 separate halves, as you can see, which were reused as hearses, embedded in a beaten earth floor, as you can see at the left image, and these are the 2 restorable halves of the pithos, and the image to the right show the reconstructed profile of the jar. You can also see the evidence for them being reused as hearses according to the soot traces that cover the 2 halves, especially the lower one. Next, please. The fourth fragmentary pithos was found near Tel Ashkelon on the southern coast, and it is of the same type as the Jerusalem Pithos A and the Mulabis Pithos that you just saw. The 5th and 6th pithoi fragments were found nearby at Tel Ashkelon itself, and they represent 2 different types, one with a triangular rim and another with a thickened externally ridged rim. The 7th and 8th pithos fragments were found as sherds in a refuse-rich agricultural soil south of Caesarea on the central coast. They represent another type with a plain rim. Next, please. The 9th and again near complete pithos was found embedded in a floor at a site near modern Modi'in in the northwestern Judean hills, the site of Titorah Hill or Khirbat el-Burj in Arabic. It is smaller than the complete Jerusalem A, Terra Santa, and Mulabis jars. It is about 65 centimeters high and 52 centimeters wide. And its rim profile is identical to the Jerusalem B pithos that you saw its picture before. Next, please. Thank you. All the 9 pithoi were petrographically analyzed by Dr. Anat Cohen-Weinberger of the Israel Antiquities Authority, and the preliminary results show that the vessels are divided into 4 petrographic groups. The mineralogical composition of the pithoi from groups A to C indicates that the raw materials derive from geological settings different from those familiar from Israel. Petrographic group A is represented by the Jerusalem pithos A, the Mulabis and Ashkelon Barzilai pithoi. Next, please. Thank you. Group B is represented by the Ashkelon Basilica pithos A and the Caesarea pithoi. The pithoi of both groups A and B are characterized by an optically active argillaceous matrix containing abundant discrete foraminifera alongside with minerals such as serpentine and pyroxenes. The unique combination suggests that the raw materials were sourced from an area adjacent to both ophiolite units and sedimentary basins. In the Eastern Mediterranean specifically, ophiolites are known to occur in northwestern Syria, Turkey, Cyprus, and Greece, which indicates for the potential areas of origin of these pithoi of both groups A and B. In these scene sections, you can see, and those seen in the previous slide, you can see some of the components of these matrices. Next, please. Group C is represented by the Ashkelon Basilica pithos B, and is characterized by micaceous fabric and a few coarse siltstone and calcareous rock fragments. This raw material is also not local to the southern Levant. Petrographic group D is represented by the Jerusalem pithos B and the Modi'in pithos, which also share the same rim neck profile, as you can see and as I said before. The matrix is calcareous with abundant mollusk shell fragments and a few quartz grains, which possibly point to a local origin. So this petrographic group is, as opposed to the three former ones, is perhaps local. Next slide. A few preliminary conclusions. In the 8th to 10th centuries, pithoi or ziar were relatively small sized, made on the wheel or by hand, and were of either local or regional origin. Northern jars from Galilee and Transjordan had a limited geographical distribution, and the Central Hill Country jars, namely those produced in or around Jerusalem, were slightly more popular. In the 11th and 12th centuries, small-sized, perhaps wheel-made jars continued to be produced locally, as the petrographic group D show, alongside the appearance of considerably larger handmade jars of a foreign, maybe Syrian, Cypriot, or Anatolian origin. It is still uncertain whether large jars like the imported ones were also produced locally. The imported jars are documented in coastal and in inland jars, but sites, but they usually as single vessels, which probably indicates for the rather high coast. The presence of imported jars in both Fatimid and Crusader period contexts suggests that their arrival at the southern Levant was not disturbed by geopolitical turbulences. And finally, the pithoi or ziar were used as stationary storage containers, presumably for liquids such as oil and wine. After retired from prime use, they could be reused for various purposes, including the hoarding of valuables and as terraces. Next slide. And that's it. Thank you very much for your attention.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. Now I think it's time for a discussion. I don't know, Ergün, what do you say? Do we have time for questions?
I guess, yes, we should maybe open up in a discussion part a little bit, because we have lots of, here I do see, for instance, Yona Waxman from Lyon and some other experts. Maybe they would have some questions to our audience, so that, you know, so that lectures will be also confirmed by our scholars, our participants.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Are there any questions from the audience? No? Okay, then perhaps we should take a little break, about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, and be back at 4:30. Is that okay?
Perfect, perfect. Thank you very much.
Great.
First, yeah, see you then. Take care.
Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, welcome back. Are we all here? Ergün, are you with us? I see you're connecting to audio. Let's give it a second.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so let's move on to Professor Lafly's and Professor Gora's studies, the presentation of their studies on Pithoi. And
Thank you.
I think we're good to go. Okay, so let's begin.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, we have prepared with Dr. Buono from Societe Fuliani di Archeologia in Udine in Italy. So let me just start with my presentation. Where is my PowerPoint? Let me just first find it. Yeah, I just found it. Great. And then what I'm going to do is share the screen. Hopefully it will work out. There you go. I guess it should be working out right now. Zoe, could you confirm it? Could you guys see it?
Yes, perfectly.
Perfect. Okay, thank you very much, Zoe. Yes, well, what I'm going to right now try is to present our Turkish material one by one. And I also would be very thankful from our colleagues from different parts of the Mediterranean to give me an assistance about those pieces, so that we will just sort of make a more complete picture of the situation of Pithoi in Asia Minor. As you would know, we have lots of museums in Turkey, Turkish state museums, more than 300. And I could say, as you can imagine, maybe this is the same for Greece or Italy or anywhere else in the Mediterranean. We have more than 100,000 of these type of vessels in those museums. And their fragments, of course, filled within, mostly in the gardens of these museums, as well as in the depot house, in the storehouses. And they are namely main source for us in terms of typology and chronology of those vessels in Asia Minor. Let me begin with this piece first. As far as I do know, this is the oldest pithos from Asia Minor, I guess. It is a Bronze Age pithos. I believe it's from the beginning of the second millennium. I would date it 18 to 16th century BC, from the peninsula of Halikarnassus in western Turkey, very close area to Greek border, Eastern Greek border. And this burial pithos excavated in 2013 by the Museum of Bodrum, by the Nautical Museum of Bodrum, in Çukurbuk necropolis site on the Halikarnassus Peninsula in western Turkey. And as I said, it's one of the earliest Pithoi, not only in Asia Minor, but also in the Aegean. If you have any earlier one from Crete or from mainland Greece or from Greek islands, Aegean islands, or from Cyprus, please let me know. But I couldn't find any in the literature. And I dated, as I said, at the beginning of second millennium BC. For typology, I'm sure all of us could say something about these type of vessels. The interesting thing is that it has 8 handles in the upper part and in the lower part, both. and as well as this, I would say, noodles here, not for decoration, but for some other purpose, I guess. It is 1 meter 73 centimeter high, and the diameter is 62. So it's actually pretty large in terms of pottery technology. And I'm always wondering, where did they invent this technology in the beginning of the second millennium in Western Asia Minor? From where did they get it? And where did they produce those vessels in Halikarnassus Peninsula? But in any case, the most important information from this pithos is that the tradition of pithos in Asia Minor started related to burial archaeology, related to necropolis archaeology. So the first users of pithoi in Asia Minor were actually using these type of vessels as burial containers and not really as containers for, like wheat or for grapes or other type of things. So it's important for us to determine about its first use in Asia Minor. So let me begin with the other part of my lecture. Of course, we have archaic pithoi. Of course, we have classical pithoi in Asia Minor, Persian ones. We have, of course, lots of Urartian pithoi, the ones that have been presented early in the morning by Paulina from Eastern Turkey. But from Western Turkey, we have most of the time in the museums Roman, Byzantine, or late medieval pithoi. For instance, these ones from Halikarnassus, from Bodrum, from the Nautical Museum of Archaeology at Bodrum. Here we have a very interesting example, actually, a very large one in the garden of the museum, where an MNK has been indicated and engraved on the bottom part of the pithos. And it's also important for this pithos is that it has been restored in an uncertain time period. You could clearly see the traces of the restoration here, because restoration on pithoi in later periods is another subject which has been neglected so far. Who did this restoration? For which purpose did they do this restoration? How did they do this restoration? But restorations are many on Anatolian pithoi. And also important is also the rim. The rim typology of this particular pithos here. I guess this is not Anatolian. This is from somewhere else. I guess perhaps from Italy, because we don't have this type of, or from Greece. This could also be from Greece. We don't have this typology very common in Asia Minor. But we have that type of, this very common here, especially in Bodrum, and also the most common one is this one, which has a very globular shape with a very small base, as well as an outcurved rim with two-stepped rim. This is something, as I said, unique for me. And if you guys have any type of chronological suggestion about that, I am more than welcome to listen to this. Again, from this type, we have, from this particular globular type, we have several examples in the Museum of Bodrum. The most important thing about the Museum of Bodrum is that most of the finds in the museum are from the wreaths, from the shipwrecks in the area of Karya and Lucia. So that's why Bodrum is one of the largest collection of amphorae in Turkey. But its pithos collection has been neglected so far, even though they have been found, they have been discovered in the same cargoes with amphorae in the same shipwrecks, but nobody did pay attention to these large vessels, perhaps because they are underrated. But so far we have unfortunately no typological classification of those objects, even though they have found with the same with other vessels in the same shipwrecks in the region. So please tell me if you guys seen such similar pithos in your areas. You could clearly differentiate the clay color here. You know, the colors are different. Perhaps they are reflecting the color, the clays that are from the areas which are not in Karya, from maybe Cilicia, maybe Israel, or maybe Cyprus. This is something also very old for the region, because when I asked to the museum administrators, they said they believe this is modern, this typology, which I don't believe. I would date it into 16th to 17th century, because I have some parallels from Italian and Iberian peninsulas. So I believe this is again something out of Asia Minor. The Izmir collections are also very large with pithos. We have 5 museums in Izmir, 3 large museums in Izmir itself, and then 4 rural areas, like in Çeşme, in Ephesus, in Pergamon, in Ödemiş, and 1 in Tire, 5 altogether. So in these museums, we have several, of course. Pithoi is one of these. He's here from the Museum of Ephesus. When I check the publications of Australian excavations in Ephesus, I come to the conclusion there are almost very, very few pithoi that have been excavated in situ and published later. This is one of them. We have an terminus postquem for this. They dated it into 8th century AD. This is very important for us because except certification and except archaeological contextualization, we have almost no evidence for their datation in Asia Minor. So this is one of the very unique one that we could sort of date with some convincement. So let me go to Cilicia, a region which is close to Cyprus, Syria, Lebanon, and of course Israel, to the Levantine coast in southern Turkish coast, where we have several museums, more than like 7 or 8 museums we have in this particular landscape. And of course, the typology of Pithoi has a large manifoldness. We could see in the first one a very typical Cilician clay color, which is very typical for, like, sort of, I would say, creamy, buff, creamy clay color, which is typical for Roman production of Cilicia. And also the rim as well as the handles are typical for this particular region. And we have an imitation of it from the Museum of Mersin, in the garden of the Museum of Mersin. It's more or less same typology with 3 handles, and handles are lower than the rim, more or less. 3 horizontal, vertical handles, of course, and small handles, as well as I would say small but extensive rim, and a very globular body, and an outturned base. So this is a typical Cilician pithos, beginning from the, I would say, 3rd century, and was in use until 6th to 7th century AD, a long time period from the Roman to early Byzantine ages. So this is a corpus of Cilician pithoi in the Museum of Tarsus. Here, this one is a typical Cilician one, a Roman early Byzantine Cilician pithos, and the rest of the things are actually excavated in Gözlükule or in Donuktaş, and they are from the later periods, the periods that Itamar has presented right now from Jerusalem and from Israel. So the ones that Itamar has presented, we have parallels, typological parallels from Cilicia and from other southeastern regions of Turkey, including Antioch, of course. And I believe that this should be close to the dates that Itamar has presented. I would say 8th to 11th centuries AD. But as I said, the excavations did not really publish their results in terms of certification. So all we can do is just sort of date them through typological comparanda with the other excavations. I included 2 more examples. This one is also, again, a Cilician, I would say early Byzantine example, as well as this one, which has been obviously used as a burial later. Let me also say one word about that. Most of the Cilician pithoi were used first of all for, of course, wheat and other sort of, I would say, items. But then when they got damage in their interior or exterior areas, then they're turned to be used as secondarily as a burial. So the burial use of pithoi in Roman and early Byzantine Cilicia has been, of course, proven by the excavations, but it seems that most of the time they have been secondarily used as burial, not as a primarily. So this is an important information for us. So that means they have been reused once their use as pithos was no more possible. So there was a reason for their secondary use, and Cilician examples are proving this. Let me also show you my examples from the Museum of Bergama, which is ancient Pergamum in ancient Aeolis. Here I have an amazing example, which is being exhibited in the interior of the Museum of Bergama, which is very great for us because most of the pithoi are being exhibited in the gardens, so they are getting sort of dusty and they are losing their original colors. So this is one of these nice protected one, and we have discovered a graffiti on it. We have in the Museum of Bergama 14 pithoi, which are created in the exhibition. And this is the first of them, one of the 8 examples. And this has graffiti in 2 lines. We have several Greeks, including Zoe here. So please help me for my transcription. Here is my excellent photo. I'm sorry, it's a little bit flew. Sorry for the quality of the picture. But you can more or less see there are 2 lines. Not very well, I would say, written. It's a crudely written graffiti, but let me just show you my transcription. We have here a short graffito in the first part, and then on the upper left, we have a P, an upper bar of P, extending P, maybe a ligature like P and I or P and T, and then we have X and A. So here is my reconstruction. Let me just show you through my arrow. A, renew, a P, then you have U dae here, up to here. U here, epsilon, delta, alpha, A, epsilon, and iota. U dae. So I read here a renew, a P, U da A. Then in the second line, we have, I would say, a Q, which is visible here, I would say, which should be completed with udae Q, genitive possessivus, and then I would read prohibis, if you could see it, prohibis. Then what I read here in this part, in this image here on the right, parax, udas, paraxudas, a sigma at the end of the inscription. So my comments is the first name is Erinus, visibly with the genitive case, of course. After there is a preposition epi, then visibly the anthroponym Udaikos, also with the genitive case, for which the name Udais in Mlaza, in Karya is known. We know this name. Udais is known in Asia Minor. The first word after epi could be irinu, which would mean made from the iris, for which we have some, 2 evidences. Bulletin Correspondance Hellénique from the 19th century, where they indicated Elayu Eirinu. After that, we read prohiogois. The last word is at once paraxudas, I think. Since the graffiti should be dated to the 6th century or later, I would think writing conventions from manuscripts could be used by the inscriber because it looks like a manuscript writing. It doesn't look like a normal inscription, I would say, a usual one. They therefore could be perhaps numerals as well. As you know, in early Byzantine period, they were also using Greek letters as numerals. So this could also be numerals. But please tell me your suggestions because you guys, you're Greek, of course, are better than myself. So I have another example from the Museum of Bergama, Museum of Pergamum. This is a piece my students are always asking about this particular stamp, but I could not really find any answer. The only parallel that I found was a graphite and stamp that has been published by John Walker Hayes from Saraçhane. He has published a parallel for it, but not exactly the same. But I date this pithos into Middle Byzantine period, I would say 9th to 10th century. So if you guys have any parallel from your sites, please let me know about this. And we have also no idea about the function of this particular stamp. The same stamp has been stamped in other areas on this pithos, only on this pithos. There is no other example of it. But let me just tell you that this is the same stamp. They did not really use other stamp. They only stamped the pithos with the same stamp. I counted 11 times. So let me show you other pithos. These are typical Middle Byzantine pithoi from Pergamum. I would say their measures are more or less the same, differing between, I would say, 50 to 80 centimeters in height, and then diameter are like 35 to 65. And a very simple shape, outcurved rim, a globular body, and a sort of very small base. Most of the time they have a little tubular on the base part. And I guess they have been used as sort of, I would say, earthed in the fortification of Pergamum during the Middle Byzantine to Late Byzantine period. And it is possible that the Ottomans were the one who really rediscovered this pithos when they first used the Acropolis of Pergamum. When they came to Pergamum, they perhaps continue with the using this pithos in the area. So these are ones in the garden of the museum. You can clearly see the mousses on there. For the lid, I would suggest this one. I have seen parallel lids by the presentation of Bianca in Pompeiopolis, but also in Bulgaria. So most of the time, I think the lids were like this, I would say, just round and simple ones. That's my impression. And we have also restoration here. In some places, we could see the traces of restoration. This is another field that we should really invest time to make more scholarly knowledge about it. Restoration is something on Pithoi, something that we need to discuss. Here we could see more or less the profile and again the lid. This is something that I photographed just 2 weeks ago in Serapeion, Kızılavlu in Bergama. You could clearly see the traces of a paint here. I believe it was earthed up to here, and then they painted the upper part. Sometimes we have this court decoration. We say cordial decoration. It's not very common, but sometimes we have it. And here you can see a little bit of waveline decoration, a little bit. So this is type 2, a little bit smaller, but I would say the body is no more globular. It's more, I would say, cylindric. Here we have the cylindric type. And in the later periods, maybe even Ottoman times, they have this decoration and the profile is becoming thinner. So I would like to show you one more example, this time from Upper Cayster Valley from the Museum of Ödemiş, where you could see clearly the clay is typical for Upper Cayster Valley because I have published some clay sarcophagi from this area and the clay was the same. Extremely red, fire red, I would say, very nicely done. The typology is more or less the Middle Byzantine typology of Asia Minor, Western Asia Minor, I would say 8th to 11th century. But this time we are lucky to have this decoration. And the most important thing about this pithos that it has been excavated in situ. And the area that the museum has excavated was an industrial area. So this is one of the sole evidence, one of the very few evidence here in the western part of Turkey that that type of pithoi were used also for industrial purposes. Yeah, let me also show you this interesting one. I like this so much because this is from the Black Sea area and Byzantine one. I have just copied it from a Turkish newspaper. You could see this is the corner of the Museum of Trabzon. One of my favorite museum in Turkey, actually. It's a lovely, lovely area. And you see how big it is and how large it is and how heavy it is actually. And it's definitely an underwater find, as you see. Well, let me just tell you, this is a contribution of me and by Dr. Boara. A Byzantine pithos was discovered in the Black Sea area near Araklı in Arşin, which is around 30 kilometers east of Trabzon, up to the Georgian borderline in northeastern Turkey in 2016. The Byzantine storage container, weighing nearly 300 kilograms, was caught in the fishing net of a boat in the Black Sea, as reported by the Turkish Daily News on 15th of February 2016. The pithos has almost 150 meter long, 5 Byzantine feet, and has a maximum width of approximately 3 Byzantine feet, while the mouth has a diameter of 1 foot. The overall weight empty is, as I said, 300 kilograms. It is created today in the Museum of Trabzon. So how should we interpret this? The surface is dark brown with large blackish spots. On the body, there are classical encrustations that terracotta containers present when immersed in seawater for a long time. The mouth is wide and has a flat and enlarged rim at the top. There are numerous grooves on the throat and shoulder. For this reason, it belonged to type 2 of the pithoi classified by Russian colleague Sergei Zelenko in his famous website, Archaeology or Black Sea Artifacts. The pithos ends with a small cylindrical tip. The shape of the pithos recovered from the sea corresponds to that of the pithoi from the Novi Svet wreck, dated to the 13th century. An amount of vessels retrieved from the site suggests the importance of the pithoi in the medieval shipping. It served for provision and other needs on board. Numerous fragments of pithoi were found in the cemetery around the church of Trabzon, together with pottery from the 10th to 12th centuries. Another pithos with a diameter of 90 centimeters was found in the right corner of a castle site at Akçakale, ancient Kordile, a Byzantine Kordile, 18 kilometers west of Trabzon. After 1204, with the capture of Constantinople by the participants of the Fourth Crusade, the Empire of Trabzon was created, which also had an area controlled in the Crimea. Therefore, contacts and transport of goods along and between two shores of the Black Sea were intensified. Well, this is the map that has been done by Dr. Boara. You could clearly see Trabzon and the areas of the shipwreck here. So what we are trying to say is that in the Turkish Black Sea area, especially in the eastern part, we have several monasteries and several finds of pithoi, and we believe that these pithoi were sort of, indicating the monastic economies in the region, and they were also transported from this part of Turkey to the north and other parts of the Black Sea area. So they are very nice documentations of, interregional exchange or commodities during the late medieval period. Pithoi are actually also the keys to understand to, medieval exchange routes and other type of relationship between the landscapes. So after amphorae, I would say they also offer some reliable knowledge about it. Yes, I do not want to read all of this. This is something that I've done with my student, Oya Tuncer. My PhD student, she has done a nice list, I would say. She collected all the information from Turkish periodicals. I would like to show you which periodicals. In Turkey, we have Araştırma Sonuçları Toplantısı, which is the meeting for surveys. Then we have Kazı Sonuçları Toplantısı, which is meetings for excavations. And then we have museum rescue excavation symposia. These are more or less the same to the Israeli and Cypriot publications, annual publications of their general directorates, but in Turkish form. So my student attempt to collect all the information about pithoi finds in Asia Minor. So I would like to show you our result. It's a long list. We need to work on it a little bit more, but once it's ready, you would come. We would use it if you would like to just check any Turkish source, any Turkish site, if there is any pithos from this area. I would also try to put here the pictures, the images of pithoi that they publish in these reports, so that you would also use it for their typologies. So this will be a corpus, a Turkish corpus of finds, pithos finds from a Mediterranean area, from Turkey. So I would say this is more or less a complete list for pithos so far, but we need to, of course, work on it. We need to progress it a little bit more. I wish we could have more archaeometric results, but these are most things that we could do actually here. And as a last word, I would like to tell you, first of all, I would like to thank to my friends, to Zoe and Dr. Bora for helping me, for assisting me, and also to my students. And I also would like to ask you to participate also in our next year symposium, which is dedicated to bone objects in the Eastern Mediterranean Black Sea area during the Hellenistic, Roman, and early Byzantine periods. A conference that we are doing in honor of Professor Hector Williams, University of British Columbia in Vancouver, the excavator of Mytilene on Lesbos in Greece, and also he has another excavation in Iceland. So we will be happy to see the same audience next year as well. So I would like to thank you very much for your time.
Wow, that was just wow. Very, very exciting studies. Well done to both of you. Actually, are there any questions for Professor Laflı and Bora? No one?
Perhaps Dr. Bora would like to say something. Herr Bora, möchten Sie etwas sagen? Haben Sie etwa irgendwelchen Kommentare oder irgendwelchen Sachen, dass Sie dann korrigieren möchten? Ich kann die alles auf Englisch übersetzen, wenn Sie mögen. Bitte sehr.
Alles Gute.
Ja, so gut. Jetzt sagt auch etwas Leonardo.
I think you got all of us covered. You were amazing.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, thank you. I wish I would get some critics from our colleagues and some maybe corrections or revisions or suggestions, because yeah, we have more or less same types in lots of different landscapes. All we should do is that we should pay attention to Pithoi as good as amphorae. I mean, amphorae research already is very progressed, but I have no idea why we neglected Pithoi so far. So yes, maybe this conference will be the first one, which will give the idea to the people. Let me also do something for pithos.
Yes, why not? Yeah. Okay, we should also mention that we're planning, along with Ergün, another conference on early Christian baptism and baptismal inscriptions in Asia Minor, which will take place here on Zoom again, online, that means, on December 19, I think. Yes, and the deadline for the abstracts is September 1st, I think, yeah. We will email you the relevant website, and you can join us again if you want.
Yes, Zoe, yeah, I'm now just showing to our audience its posture so that they will sort of have,
oh, great.
Yes, so that they will see it, because I forgot to actually I forgot to edit already. There you go, because it's the posture that you have done. I like that so much. Could you now see it now? No? Could you see your posture?
Yes.
Yes?
Actually,
very nice.
I'm going to hit into the chat the relevant website.
Yes, that would be great. Yes. Well, we have some comments actually. Maybe our audience could not speak. That's why they actually sort of written their comments. Should I read their comments? It was a pleasure for us to participate in the conference. It was wonderful to stay in touch. Best wishes, Panayot and Antonom. I'm also thanking them so much. That was a very nice contribution, a Bulgarian contribution. The Hadrianopolis contribution, because it's very close to Turkish borderline, and we learned a lot from them. Actually, it's very important. In the neighboring Kos Island, we have found burial pithoi dated in the 3rd millennium. Yes, this is very important. This is extremely important. Yes, let me show you what it's. This is Anna Paula. Yes. Yes. Vasiliki is saying that. Dated to the 3rd millennium BC. Maybe late, I would say second part of 3rd millennium BC. I cite the publication of Nivan. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vasiliki. This is important. So that means the tradition came from Greece. The tradition came from Greece, transferred from Greece to Halikarnassos Peninsula. Because we don't have earlier, as far as I do know. Then we have Anna Paula's Bemerkung. Also, an article written by Barbara Hoyetz includes a comment on the earliest Pithoi burials in Anatolia, early Bronze Age period. Okay, there are. Spätbronzenzeit Bestattung in Halkapınar by Ephesus. But this is also Spätbronzezeitlich. I think, I mean, late Bronze Age. The one from Halikarnassos, I would say Anna Paula. You would know better than myself. I think this is Middle Bronze Age, I would say. Beginning of 2nd millennium, my impression. The mere subject, Pithos burials, is an interesting complement to the previous findings presented here. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anna. Excellent, Ergün. Thank you so much, of course. Thank you very much that you came, Michaela. Vielen herzlichen Dank, dass Sie hier waren. And Zoe's, of course, website. Lovely website. Lovely website. Very nice. Thank you very much for this. Yes, Vasiliki. Oh, it's early, right? Early 3rd millennium. Yes. So it is 1,000 years earlier than Halikarnassian Pithos. If the dating in Halikarnassos has been, I would say, done through C14. I'm not sure about this. Calibrated. I need to check this out first, if their date is right or not. But Vasiliki, is the same typology in Kos? What you think? Huh? Maybe I should give you the thing. I should give you the microphone, maybe. Yeah. Maybe I should give you the microphone. Sorry, Vasiliki. I need to find you out first. Sorry. Yeah. Vasiliki, would you like to say it is the same typology in Kos? Vasiliki? Now you can speak actually. No? I think you can speak. Yes. Maybe you cannot speak. You could speak, I guess. No, you cannot speak. Maybe you don't have a microphone with you, or yes. Grazie mille, Signora Bora. Bora has left us. Vasiliki, could you maybe speak? No, maybe you don't have a microphone. Anyways, it's okay. Thank you very much for your comment, though. That's very kind. Thank you. All right, what should we do now? Again, a break, or you want to close the conference? What would you like to do, Zoe?
Actually, I think we're good. Closing remarks were great, and
yes.
I think we're all covered.
Yeah. Because you were the boss, would you like to say a little bit about the baptism? Maybe a couple of words before to convince the people to participate to our conference, maybe? Yes.
Yes. You can also find detailed information at our website. And we had this idea along with Ergün last year when we had the Bithynia conference.
Yes.
I just hit into the chat, Ergün, why don't we make a conference on baptism? And he was like, okay.
No, it's a very important conference because, as you know, this is first of all, a part of your PhD, first of all. And secondly, it's already neglected, actually. And if you check it, it's such a universal subject because people do not really correlate it with the former Jewish tradition and the Christian tradition. And it's linked to paganism, as well as its epigraphic aspects.
The inscriptions part are very important.
Extremely manifoldness, and only the epigraphic evidence for baptism in Asia Minor is already an ocean, I would say. There are a lot to discuss about it. Also, as I said, the etymology, the tradition itself, and the meaning in Christianity, at the beginning of Christianity, of baptism, how did they interpret it? So these are all very, 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 I would say, important subjects. How did they get it? And when did they get it exactly? And how did they, I would say, understand it for the first time? So it was already I would say, a very smart idea of you to organize. So we'll hope, inshallah, I say, this will be something successful. We'll see.
I hope so too. I
We'll
hope
see.
so. Yes, and I forgot to mention that in our call for papers that the description part can lead us also to naming practices.
Yes.
And relate the name with the baptismal ritual and see how there is the transitional period from paganism and Judaism to Christianity through names. It is very, very important. So please consider topics like this too, and you can submit it to our email addresses.
Because after you, I check it to find out how many sort of precise publication we have on the baptism tradition. There are not many. Of course, there are some for the idea of baptism and for the theory of baptism, but for its concrete evidence through epigraphy, especially on from the inscriptions from Asia Minor, are almost none. And nowadays, after so many Inschriften Kleinasien volumes for the Asia Minor inscriptions, it's now the right time to make some conclusions for some specific issues like baptism, onomastics, or stuff like this. So why not beginning with baptism? Why not beginning with baptism? So that was a very good idea. So we'll see. We'll see. Let's cross the fingers.
Okay, so we'll keep you posted, everyone.
Yes. So would you like to close the conference and say goodbye to everybody? Zoe?
Okay. I just want to mention that it was a great experience for me, but I'm not an archaeologist. Okay, I learned many things today, thanks to you all. And we hope to see you again soon at another event. Feel free to contact Ergün or myself if you have any inquiries or comments or notes or whatever. And I just want to wish you all good luck with your careers and studies. And that's it. Bye, everyone.
Yes. Yes, Zoe, I'm glad to know you and I'm glad to work with you, to cooperate with you. That was really nice experience. And thank you very much for all of your efforts. And also, vielen herzlichen Dank, Herr Bohrer. Sie waren wie immer sehr, sehr nett und sehr, sehr, sehr hilfreich. Und ich danke Ihnen ganz herzlich. And I would like to thank to all our participants. And also, I would like to mention my students, Mohammed, Mahsun here, and then Tugay, and then Duygu, who already left because she has a daughter who is in Department of Musicology here in our campus in Izmir. She needs to go right now. So thanks for everybody for participating to us. And as Zoe told, very good. See you next time. Have a great time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.